And I'm going to shrink this down so you can all see. You can all see what it is I'm doing here. Screen share. First, we're going to do this. All right. I got to shrink this down. And there's that. And I wanted to go through the homework. And I really appreciate you guys who sent the homework in and did it. Can you all see my my desktop?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a handful of these. I've just got a handful of these right now. Yeah, Valle.
Hey, Thomas, it's Nina. I sent you my my grisaille yesterday afternoon around 3 or 4.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Good. Thank you.
I got it. If you did send me something and you don't see it here, let me know. Okay? Let me know. And all this is just an exercise to get you conscious of patterns and marks. Okay? Patterns and marks. Every one of these little patterns, from hatching the dots to circles to dashes to diagonal dashes. You can see mainly that the more closer together the patterns are, the more dense and dark the value of something. Okay, these are basically doodles. That's all they are, just doodles. Somewhat redundant, but it is interesting to see the patterns of them.
I thought I needed to drink after I did that homework.
Well, no, you're supposed to drink before you do it.
Oh, well,
I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
That was a bad form there. Yeah, because it gets monotonous, right? It gets monotonous. But there's reasonings for it, okay? There's reasonings for it. And basically, now that you've gone there and you've actually used your pencil in all these different ways, you have that experience you can draw upon in the future. Okay, when you're doing a thumbnail sketch or a charcoal rendering or a graphite rendering, you can apply these different techniques in different areas. Just when you're dealing with form and light on form, or to fill parts of the form, excuse me. So what do you say? I referred to the text in the line. Notans, I don't have apps. Okay, that's fine. In this class today, we're gonna break down one of my teacher's paintings with that app. I'm gonna show you what it looks like, and we're gonna move from the colored version to the black and white version to the new Notan, which basically means just one value or two values, the 3 value and 4 value. Okay, so you'll get to see it broken down, and then the reasonings behind it. Okay. Okay, so you took a day to go, the rehearsal. This is interesting. The format is more squarish. Okay, and then here's the Anders Zorn of the boat. Got it. Okay, those are nice little thumbnails. All right, and then you did you do, Valle, did you do a larger sketch of the Zorn by chance, or is that it?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, still, it's simplified. You see the darks are simplified. They're very much the same. You've got like one, two, three, maybe 4 values, in that the white is taking up some of the lightest value. And then you've got some mid-value sketches here, and then darker value sketches, okay? I think the only thing I would say would be just be a little more patient with your renderings, okay? Patience is huge in this, okay? Trusting the process and patience, okay? This is also yours, which is the same one. I think I downloaded it twice. All right, and whose is this? Alice. Okay, Alice.
The beginning of our class. What's up?
Are you here, Alice?
Hello?
Hello, hello. Okay, well.
I have a question. Were we supposed to use the little
No, you were not. I thought this was an interesting way of approaching that project, is using those different techniques.
Were
You
we
know,
supposed to use a certain value structure?
No.
Is that
No,
on that scale?
No.
Because I couldn't figure it out.
no, you were not. You were just supposed to come up with the value representative of the shape that you were looking at. How you
Because it's the scale goes from all black to, I don't know. Anyway, mine's almost all black
it's okay.
with some white. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thomas, I'm on now. I sorry, I had to grab a phone call. This is
Okay.
my picture.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So when I saw this, I thought this is really fascinating. You actually used some of those diagonals and dots and dashes and circulars to fill the void. So it made it interesting to look at. You've got a nice variety of textures going on with this.
Oh, thanks.
If you squint your eyes, everybody, if you squint your eyes, everything kind of holds together and you get to see the value structure of it. Okay. Whereas if you don't squint your eyes, you get to see all the details and the patterns and things. And that can be a little, just a little monotonous. All right. Woe to us if we create monotony. People get bored with monotony. So it's a great exercise. You did really well. You kept to the format, which is accurate for that Zorn painting. And you really did. You saw the value structure of it. So nicely done. Nicely done. And also, I really appreciate your paying attention to the squiggles up top here. That took some time.
I know. I made my my rectangles way too big. It was pretty
I
tedious.
know, you got tired. That's why you need a drink afterwards. So anyway, I'm proud of you, kiddo. That's good. You did really well. All right.
Thank you.
You're
Thomas,
welcome.
may I ask one quick question?
Sure.
For those
Yeah.
of us who missed last week, did you record the first
Yes,
lecture?
I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
It's
great.
on there.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this one, and I'm going to go to this one. I did not download. Something happened with my computer this morning, so I couldn't download it on the my iPad. So these are all on my desktop here. Okay, Kathy.
Hey.
This is fun. This is a fun little rendering. This is like what happens when Van Gogh gets a hold of a Zorn. Huh? You actually changed the composition. You worked on a little more of a squarish rectangle, okay? And you offset the figure, which it works. It works for me. I'm thinking, though, that you weren't paying so much attention to the values in that what's off in the distance, the structures, the landmass off in the distance tend to be a darker value than this part of the boat there. You understand what I'm saying?
How do you get the pencil dark enough?
You couldn't get it dark enough?
I had trouble, yeah.
Yeah, because look at the toe of the shoe. That's pretty dark.
That's pretty dark, yeah.
So if you can't get something dark enough, the idea is if this is as dark as you can get it, then you need to look at what's next to it and lighten what's next to it.
Sure, that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
So you just take a kneaded eraser, crumble it up, get it nice and clean, and then just push it onto the surface here and here. Push it here and here, and then all of a sudden this will take on a lighter value, and this will all of a sudden become more important.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nicely done. Okay, that's fun. It's a fun drawing.
It was.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to shrink that down, and I'm going to shrink this one down, and now we're going to move on to this one here. Is this Alice? Who is this?
Yeah, that might be me. Second
Okay.
one, second picture.
Wow.
Because I made such big boxes to fill in.
Yeah,
I had to
you
use
did. It
some
must have
pages.
taken you forever. That's
Yeah, it did.
a whole bottle of wine there. Oh my goodness. No, nicely
I
done.
know how to do these now.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So what's interesting is if you do your pen and inks, you've got your hatches and cross hatchings. You do engraving, you got your hatches and cross hatching, and you can see how they do get darker. Let me see if I can annotate this so you can see my. So you can see the value. Okay, the value, and I don't mean just the quality, but I mean the actual darkening of the shapes the closer the lines are together. And you're very careful. So that's also important too. You want the lines to be parallel and not, you know, not rubbing up against each other if you can. Now, same with the pointillism. If you ever look up pointillism, I actually did download a couple of images to look at for pointillism, where an artist will do an entire black and white pen and ink drawing with points, just like this. And if they want to make something darker, they just put more of the same size points closer together. And if they want to lighten something up, they just don't keep so many closer together. So they're adjusting the value based on the proximity of each of the points. Okay, and this would be great grass, you know, nice grass for a design as well. This one, you know, that's kind of a geometrical background.
Well, the example had a sense of texture in it, so I deliberately made it crooked.
Yeah. Well, good. So your observation skills are honed. So you're going to go far fast. And these little figure eights too. Oh my God. Wow.
Oh, golly.
Woo! You know, now, I mean, this is detail work, but okay, so then you start looking at artists like Klimt, and you look at artists like Maurice Prendergast that you know, used patterns in a way that moved the viewer's eye around their paintings and or drawings, but not in a way that each one was demanding of your attention, but just interesting enough that you could look at it and then walk away from it. Okay, so that's nicely done. Okay, and whose is this? This is Katie. Okay, same thing, and you use pen. That took courage. Look at that. Good. All I wanted you to do was just go on this journey, okay? And you were careful with it. You've got a long piece of paper here. How did you do that?
It was my moleskin book, my 5x8 moleskin.
Okay, so this is really tiny.
It's pretty small, yeah.
Yeah, it's very impressive, you know. I mean,
It was fun, except for the figure eights. It was fun.
yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, okay, because the figure eight, you turn it on its side, and what is it?
It's an infinity thing.
That's right. Okay, so there must be something to that, right? You know, when I damaged my knee in football, part of my healing exercise in getting back to the game was running in figure eights as well. Anyway, so that's nicely done. Thank you. And
Thank you.
At the values. Look at the values. Squint your eyes and notice how each one gets darker. The more emphasis you place on a piece. Okay. All right. And whose is this? We need to have names. This is nicely done too. Have we done this one already? No, this is a new one.
I think that's mine.
Who's mine? Who's that?
Alice. I think we already talked about this.
We did?
No,
Okay.
I don't know if it's mine or not. It looks like mine.
Who wants to claim it? All right. Well, anyways, if we did it, it looks.
We already did that one.
All
I
right.
think it's mine. Alice.
Okay,
We
Al.
already did that one.
All right. Who did this? This is
Whoa.
absolutely stunning. Oh my gosh. This should be like in a in the halls of Santa Barbara City College student art exhibition. Okay. I mean, this is amazing. I'm gonna zoom in on it. Okay. Look at that.
Golly.
This is Jackson Pollock reborn. Look at that. Wow. Very impressive. Okay, so this is obviously it's a Notan of maybe a 3 value, because you've got white, you've got a mid value, light, and then the dark patterns all tied together. Look at that. Wow. Very impressive. And who is this? Oh, too bad they're not here. That's amazing. It's amazing work. Yeah. Make sure you all sign your name when you send stuff in, okay? So at least I can attribute it to whomever spent that amount of time working on it. Nicely done. Okay. And then this. Okay. This. I can see a signature at the bottom. No. W.
Nina.
Nina.
Those are my initials.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So this is kind of a cross between a Notan and a black and white, or grisaille, as you called it.
Yeah, I downloaded the Notanizer
Okay, good.
to get the real dark darks.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so you've got kind of a three value, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 value rendering here. Okay, the Notans in their basic shapes is just black and white. Okay, you don't have any shades of gray. And then when you start adding the grays, then it shifts and you add another value to it. And then
okay.
a grisaille is basically a monochromatic value rendering. So you could have, 10 values if you want in a grisaille. Okay.
Okay.
And but the Notan is designed just to give you the basic structured elements within a composition. All right, and simplify it. You could add your other values later on. Sometimes they say you could take a large felt tip pen, draw yourself a format, okay, and then that's all you've got is black and white. You've got this real fat Sharpie, and you have to draw the shapes, tying together the shapes the best you can without getting into any hatching or grays or it's just black and white. That's where you start. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. There's a couple more here. Okay. Wendy. Let's see.
Yes.
You got there, Wendy.
Yay.
Yay. Wow. I just love looking at these. I know it's tedious, but I can actually, any one of these can be studied. You can actually see the action of the pen. You can see the journey that the artist went on from stroke to stroke to stroke. This one's a little bit like chicken scratch, though.
Yeah.
It's looks like you rushed it a little bit.
Yeah.
I have to do the praise slap praise thing,
I think I needed a drink then.
You're forgiven. I totally get it. See, that's another thing with line. That's what we're going to deal with a little bit today is line. So when you're looking at something, you're going to notice if the line is thick, going to thin, going to thick, going to thin, going to lost, going to found, etc. You're going to be able to, you're not just, kind of like scribbling in the vicinity of what it is you're looking at. You're really paying attention to the characteristics of that line.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's a reason for that. We're trying to make forgers out of you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is you as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I used the 3 level on the
That's
note.
fine. That's
So-
fine. That's just fine. And look what you did. So look at, when you use the 3 levels, you've got your darkest values in the back there and here, and they're kind of tying together in the middle of the page. This is an interesting shape. Look at this shape here that's forcing the viewer's eye to here. Then you've got your lights and you've got your mid-value grays, and they're tied together. So again, it's not necessarily, you took something that was more representational as an image, which had many values to it, and you were forced to make a decision on how to unify unify all the shapes and values in the design. Very important to learn how to see the picture as a whole, tie things together as much as possible, and then you can have your variations of subtle nuances happen, but not until after you've established your simplified value structures. Okay, it's very important to start from square one and tie things together and then move out from there. So you wouldn't necessarily go as dark in your values for the Notan. You might have, in this case, the three values. You might start a little bit lighter, which you did, and then you move to your next lightest value of grays, tie those together, and then you go in with your, your lightest grays, looks like. And then the white, of course, is the the white of the paper. So squint your eyes. Everybody squint your eyes. Look at the value structure of it. And you can see not only the value structure, but the directional lines that are moving in one direction to where the focal point is here.
Yeah.
All right. This is all deliberate structure here. And what we're going to learn today is how to create these grid patterns to help this process along and make things guaranteed that they're going to be more solid. Studying the masters, be drawing over a master work with the grid pattern, and then applying that in a way that you're going to know in the future that's what is beneath the surface. Okay, the configuration is what we're after here. All right, so here we go. Are there any questions about that?
Yes, I have a question, and
Right.
you
Okay,
didn't have mine. You didn't get mine. I sent you mine
When did you send it?
about 8:30.
Yeah, no, you got to send it to, I told you, you got to send it the day before.
I did yesterday.
Oh, 8:30 p.m.?
Yeah.
I sent
Oh.
mine in the afternoon too.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay, it was yesterday.
okay. No, just stick around after class. And if I didn't get it, if it's not in that, if it's not in there, then that means it's still in my emails and I can get it. Okay.
Okay.
I sent
you-
mine too, but it was way early. It was like right the same day after last class.
Okay. All right. Well, it's in there. We're going to get to it.
Me
Okay.
too, Thomas.
All right. Hi, you too. Yes, you too. Well, all right, Julia. All
I
right.
didn't
Good to see
send you
y'all.
one, Thomas. Sorry.
Who did?
I said I did not send it to you. I didn't know you wanted them.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
called homework.
I know. Sorry.
It's okay. This is adult ed.
I know.
It's a free class.
Exactly.
Just show up and do the best you can. Okay. All right. So here we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to ease into this today. All right. I'm going to give you a little video just about the arrangement of shapes, and then we're going to go on into edges. Okay. So we'll start here.
Otis College
This is
of Art
a
and Design
fantastic
presents
simplified variation.
Composition Fundamentals in 2D.
What I want you to do is take notes on some of these
With me,
terms.
Ronnie Feldman. As an artist or designer, it is your job to attract and direct your audience's attention so you can communicate effectively. Even the subtlest changes in a composition can affect the way we see and understand an image. In this video, I will use cut paper and collage to show a variety of methods to direct attention. There are many ways to direct our attention, with patterns, with points, or triangular and arrow-like forms. Using geometric shapes such as circles, squares, triangles, X's, or other polygons. Faces and eyes attract our attention extremely well, but we are only using abstract forms for this demonstration, so you can understand the fundamentals. Our eyes will typically go to the largest, most prominent object first, and then move to the smaller objects. You can also create balance or move the eyes back and forth between two or more points by giving the objects equal weight. Because we read from left to right in Western culture, the right side of our compositions tend to feel heavier. You may sometimes need to balance this effect by adding a little more weight to the left side of your composition. This may differ in other cultures. The shapes don't always have to be the same. Here, I have balanced a geometric form with a grouping of smaller forms. The shapes and sizes are different, but their weight draws our eye almost equally. Similarly, because everything on Earth responds to gravity, we are used to feeling more emphasis on the bottom of a composition. To balance this, you may sometimes want to put a little extra weight at the top of your composition. Value contrast is another way to attract attention. Dark objects surrounded by white, or vice versa, draw the eye very well. Bright, saturated colors and certain color harmonies also draw the eye well, but here I will only be using value. Notice how the high contrast values attract the eye much more than the low contrast ones. Different textures and edges can also draw attention. Here I have cut, crumpled, torn, and twisted paper. Be aware that regular edges may draw attention differently than smooth edges. Experiment to see which is more effective for your composition. While you may be aware that size can affect your focal point, an object's position can as well. You can draw even more attention to an object by placing it in the middle. Sometimes having it touch the edge of the page can make it seem larger or more prominent. Touching the edges creates tension. Now, we will look at some completed collages that use a variety of these techniques. The first type of composition we shall consider is asymmetrical with a focal point. It is based on the golden section, which is a geometric principle that directs the eye to the lower right-hand corner on a rectilinear format, but doesn't keep it there. Our eye pauses, but continues to track around the page. This example has placed a spiral shape at the focal point to draw our attention there. If it was any larger, or had more value contrast, it might own our attention. As it is, the other shapes keep our gaze moving. Notice how this example does not have a shape placed at the focal point, but nonetheless is able to draw our attention there, using points to direct the eye. This collage uses a variety of scales to move the eye around. There are many other types of compositions that we commonly employ for our designs. Each composition can imply different semiotics, while an asymmetrical composition with a focal point may imply difference, importance, or dominance. A central donut hole or target composition could give a sense of singularity, wholeness, or unity. A composition with bilateral symmetry can symbolize balance, harmony, lack of dominance, or two groups that are equal but separate. A regular ordered composition can imply rigidity or loss of individualism. There are many other organizing principles, such as horizontal, vertical, diagonal, radial, irregular, random, and more. Consciously select the right composition and methods of tracking for what your job requires.
All right. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Okay. So all that, there was a lot of verbiage in there. A lot of things to think about. That's great if you're a graphic designer. Very important. But even if you're just a two-dimensional designer or painter, whatever, those terms that he used are very very important to understand. And we apply them, hopefully, into your paintings to make them stronger. So now, I've got something here. We're going to talk about some edges. Okay, we're talking about line. I'm going to show you something here. Let's see, kind of bring it on to, let's just talk about contrasting line. Every shape, like the formats, when you're drawing a format, that's composed of 4 lines, right? One on each side, rectangle, square, etc. A line exists between 2 points. this is what I want you to pay attention to. As you're drawing something in the future, every element within the design can denote a characteristic in design. Your edges, very important. Not only is value important, but you've got various types of line: hard, soft, rough, smooth, lost, found, blended, and gradating. Okay, each can serve to help realize and express correct relationships. So, what do I have you do now? I want you all to have a piece of paper, okay, in front of you, all right? And can I bring this up? Let's see.
Blank.
Blank, 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 blank. Okay.
I mean, not lined, right? Unlined.
Unlined. Well, you know what? It's just for note taking, really. It's
Okay.
note taking and scribbling. So stand by here a second. I've got to
Go get my pen.
move this down here. Edges. Okay. So this is a PowerPoint that I put together for the figure drawing class. But with this, we can kind of figure out how we're going to express something. So you're more conscientious of how your lines can make or break your work of art. You say just enough with one line and not too much. Or sometimes you don't say enough. So let's take a look. We've got hard edge, soft edge, lost edge. This is a nice little note right here if you want to put that down on your piece of paper or in your sketchbook. Okay, this is a Channing Peak. I'm sorry, not a Channing Peak, I think it's a Rico Lebrun sketch here. And it has everything that you need to look at and be aware of in design right here. Variations in line. Okay, you've got some line that you don't even see the line, but it's defined by shape, by shade. Okay, you've got some line that's hard, but not as hard as another line like this one here. Okay, you've got various lines: real hard edges, moving to soft edges, medium edges, thicker edges. Lost edge here. So in designing, part of the artwork is knowing what needs to be expressed and what does not need to be expressed. When you have a lost edge, for instance, what you're doing is leaving the opportunity for the viewer to fill in the blanks. Okay, you can see it also in here. Things disappear, edges disappear. We know that they're there. At least we think they're there, but our imagination can fill in the blank. It's also a way of creating unity and unifying a picture, because you're allowing in this case, the background color or value to become an integral part of the work of art. Okay, so you could take a look here how it integrates right into the form. And here you've got a lost edge as well. In the background, highlights can also be allowed to move into the shape. So what we're looking at right now just looks like a figurative work of art. Okay, but it could be a still life. It could be a landscape. It's just, these are just techniques to be aware of when you're applying line and edges and contrasting values. Simplify what's in shadow and render what's in light, or render what's in shadow. In other words, having an understanding of light, and simplifying what's in light. One or the other, okay? I'm just going to go through a couple of these masterworks because this is one of the basic techniques that keeps the drawing alive. The understanding of value, okay? Harmony, contour line,
I feel good.
hard and lost edges. Hard and Los Angeles. Whew. Hard and lost edges. And again, like the hatching that we were looking at, you know, the closer the lines are, the darker they can be. There's a wide variety of techniques here, from smudging to hatching and cross hatching. Okay, even within this form, you've got like single lines, and then all of a sudden you've got a darker value of couple strokes of hatching. Okay, so Michelangelo, I think this is Michelangelo or Da Vinci, one of the two. I think it's Michelangelo. He knew what he was doing. Anybody recognize that? Nope.
I think it's Michelangelo.
Yeah, I do too. Okay. Okay. Here's a good example here again, too. What's in light, what's in shadow. Paying attention to the tone of the paper and or canvas, and looking for opportunities as a work of art to integrate whatever that tone or color is into the final product. This is almost like a Notan, maybe with 3 values, maybe 4. But they're, instead of using black and white, in this case, it's more of a Brunei, B-R-U-N-A-I-L-L-E, Brunei, which is using brown as a common denominator, brown and white. Same with over here. Okay, one tone. Again, variations in line.
Hey, come here. Come here.
Uh-oh. All right, so it's just beautiful. I learn something every time I look at these.
Can I just ask the students to mute yourselves? That would be really great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'm going to show you this one here, and then we're going to move on. This is an example of a drawing design within a specific format. Okay, big shapes. Obviously, the figure is cropped, and it's not necessarily about intentionally drawing a figure. It's almost the figure evolves out of the decision making for the variations of line. It's like figure second, but line and value and design first. All right, so you squint your eyes and you look for the darkest area and the lightest area. Okay, and then you look for mid-value tones. All right, and you look for simplification and tying together of shapes. You look for concave lines that are darker and convex lines that are lighter. Okay, you're looking for the illusion of reflected light here, and all that has to do is with the direction of the line, the value of the line, the hatching over a tone. And again, the more you cross hatch over that tone, it gets slightly darker and slightly darker, slightly darker. So it's not like the artist does one area and then comes down here and does another area and then comes up here and does another area. It's almost like the artist uses their peripheral vision. So while they're actually working, developing an area, they're thinking and looking at what's going on around them. Every time they put down a brushstroke or a hatching line, they are affecting the way the overall painting is looking. So they're constantly checking in, like I said, either through their peripheral vision or deliberately standing back to see whatever it is that they just did. Did that help? Are they in alignment with the process of creating this thing, or have they overdone it? Okay, so they're constantly checking in, and they're thinking about weaving things together like a tapestry. They're not starting off with the darkest dark, as dark as they can, or the lightest values, as light as they can. They're working from the mid-value range outward in order to make, to have somewhere to go, okay? Mid-value. I don't see a lot of removing of line from this. It's hard to tell if there was any removing of line, but at least you can see some decisive strokes not only in value, but also representing the illusion of the plane that they are falling on.
Thomas, what do you mean by removal of line? What would you look for?
Okay, right up here. Look here. Oh, shoot. It's not a very high resolution picture, but you see right here? See my cursor?
It's on the other shoulder too.
Yeah, it's wherever you see something removed. So it looks like they took they just broke up this shape here. It had a dark tone to it. And so you remove something. You remove a little bit of the line to make it less obvious. Also, just to break up the monotony of this shape here.
It looks to me like there's two colors, at least two colors of
values.
Line also, maybe three.
Yes.
Looks to me like there's a black chalk and a gray chalk and maybe two gray chalks, two different gray chalks.
Yeah, it's possible. I would probably say they just did this all with one. And then it was just the amount of pressure that they had on the charcoal pencil. But if you look under
Smudges or erasure marks would be a clue as to whether something's been lifted out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see much of it.
No. So this is obviously toned. It's a simplified tone. They probably took a chamois and created a unified shape, simplified shape, and then subtly went over it with the next darkest line, and then the next darkest, etc. All right. So that's just an idea of edges. Oh, this is a great one here. Okay. Let's go up. This has all the variations right here. You're defining the shape through light and dark contrast and edges. Look at the edges. Found edge, hard edge, soft edge, dark edge, soft edge, simplified. Look at how this is simplified here. This takes years of practice, you know. It doesn't just happen. But it's an awareness of developing technique and what it is you're trying to say. You got to remember that, right? You're not just there to copy any work of art that you're looking at or any subject that you're looking at. You're looking for a way of interpreting it that's going to be dynamic and interesting. All right. And then so the saying that it takes two artists to paint a painting, or in this case, create a drawing. One to create the drawing and the other to stop them from ruining it. You have to know when to stop. You have to know when you've said enough. Okay, and that also comes from getting miles of canvas behind you. All right, but in studying artwork and studying masterworks, it plants the seeds on where to go and when and what to do and how. Because you've seen it, and then you remember it, and you recall it, and you apply it to your own work. And then you sometimes can put something like this up on your board next to your canvas, and you can study it yourself. You can, you know, or just refer to it when you're doing another rendition. Variations. Light, dark patterns again, simplified, tying things together. This is the mid-tone, mid-value that we're looking at here. Again, look at how that color is allowed to fall on the planes. You would say that in this case, down in the lower regions, what is rendered is in shadow, i.e. what is modeled or modeling. You have an understanding of light on the form. Here you don't. On the calves, it's just simplified, mid-value, but you can see the form shadow into reflected light here. So he's definitely rendering and modeling what's in shadow and therefore simplifying what's in light. You can see the initial line here. And then, of course, as he works more and more on a piece, it gets more decisive and the line becomes more decisive. It's called a restatement of line. You get to feel the gesture, and then as you work more and more on it, you can refine the line and have.
You think he was using white media in this, or is this lifting
absolutely,
out?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can look right here. So that's pushing it from the mid-value lights all the way to the highlights. and the light source is hitting this plane and hitting this plane, but this plane is closer and at a different angle to the light source than this plane. So if you squint your eyes, you can see that the value is slightly lighter here. Okay, and then of course you've got this beautiful folds, and then here again, look at how this is simplified. It's not as important. It's in shadow, but that technique alone is enough to knock it back, which makes this more important. This is called reflected light. This is what gives volume to the form. So the light is coming here, hitting here, a soft form shadow, okay? Soft form shadow after the halftone, and then moving into reflected light with a disappearing edge here. Also, that reflected light is caused from this light here bouncing back, from the light source hitting here and bouncing back. You move that elbow closer to the light bouncing here, and this light will increase. You move it farther away, you move the elbow farther out from this here, and it's going to decrease. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You know how he's got the lines going on the right lower forearm going across? It almost makes it look like there's movement or something there.
Yes. Yeah.
See what
Yes.
I mean?
Yeah, that's a good call on that one. It's breaking things up. There's gesture. There's a dynamic to it. It's not static. So you've loosened the lines. It's almost like it's almost an illustrator's technique. You want to make things look like they're in motion, like someone's swinging a bat. You create a series of pattern blurs behind it. Each one, the further away from the actual structure you get, it gets softer and softer and lighter until it disappears. Okay? All right, so that's enough of that for right now. Okay? We're going to go back to here. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about tools. What I want you to do, okay, I forgot to have you do this. Let me just go back up. I'll just have you, I was going to have you do this. Let me just go back up here. All right, let's just look at this again. If you had to diagnose something for me, okay, and give me a value, say you had 10 values, or a scale of 1 to 10, and you had to compare certain values of line. I'd like you to tell me if black is as black as something could be, or light as something could be. Could you tell me about this line and quality right here? This one that's kind of, can you see it up at the top? Where does that fall on a value, say, of 1 to 5? If 1 is the darkest and 5 is the lightest, what do you think?
4.
4?
I'd say 4.
No.
3. I'd say
3?
5.
Okay, 3.
5.
Okay. 2? Okay.
The
How
lines,
about
the lines of,
as far as
not all of them
hardness?
are.
As far as hardness of line, okay, and 5 being the hardest you can go, and 0 being the softest, where would this one be? Right in here. 1 to 5.
3 or 2.
A 3 or a 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
1.
pretty soft.
It's pretty soft. Yeah, that'd be like a 1, maybe a 1.5.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do one more. Let's do one more. Let's see if I can bring up this guy right here. Okay. All right, so what I'm doing, I'm slowing your eye down and getting you to compare. Let's look at this edge here and compare it to this edge over here. If 5 is as hard as you can go and 0 is as soft as you can go, which is harder?
That's
That one.
harder.
That one or this one? The one on the right. Okay, so from 1 to 5, where do you think it would fall?
4.
A 4? Okay, how about this one?
2. 1.
Ooh. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. These are all really good. You're good at observing. You're good at observing here. What I want you to see too is, you notice this is a cylinder. Okay, it's a geometric form. The torso is kind of in cylinder shape with light falling on the plane that is closest to the light source and softly, form shadowy, falling away. Okay, and as that cylinder goes around, and we know that it's a three-dimensional form.
No, No.
We know it's a three-dimensional form, and as it recedes away, look at how soft that gets. Okay, here's a little bit darker and it kind of flattens the shape a little bit. How about over here? This one's going all the way across the torso, and then look at how soft it is over here. All right, so by softening the edges of receding planes, okay, by softening the edges of receding planes, you create and help to create the illusion of the form receding into space. The second you go and put a hard edge or a darker edge on something like this that we know is the furthest away edge or contour of that cylinder, that creates an ambiguity. It actually brings the shape forward, closer to us, and it doesn't give us that illusion that that line is or that torso is receding. Okay, I hope you're taking notes.
Can you say that again, that receding, that thing you just said?
Okay, well, I mean, hey, we're going to get it. Okay, this is an interesting one here. Right. The edge is, the harder the edge, it moves toward you. The softer the edge, it moves away from you. This one's a little bit ambiguous because you can see that hard edge. Okay, but then now you have this soft edge. So it tends to recede away and out of the picture. Okay, it's just an illusion of depth. The harder this edge, the more it comes toward you, and therefore it creates an ambiguity. Same with here. This is more important to us than this one, so, and it's closer to us than this one. So the value of it is darker. However, because it is so contrasty and hard-edged, okay, it creates a focal point for us to look at. All right, so let's go up to the shoulder. Look at the soft edge here. It's still outlined, but it could probably be even softer, somewhat like this. This is so soft. Therefore, it recedes away. This one is even eliminated. It's a lost edge. Now that recedes away even more. So back over to this one here. Now you can see the hard edge over here because he wants a little more contrast. He's deliberately moving your eye here. If he applied that same value of line and edge to the edge over here, that's going to be in competition for your focus. So you want to really hone in and develop a fine critical eye for what it is you're doing. Okay, your line is going to draw attention or not. Is that a little better? A little better? Don't worry, you'll get more practice at it soon, okay? Okay, tools for comparison. This is what I want you to also take a look at. Let's see, do I do a PowerPoint? Tools on edges. Hold on a second. We've got tools for comparison. Where is my, oh, there. Hold on, recent, numbers. What you guys don't see, I've got these Zoom brackets everywhere here that I have to move every time I change something here. All right, we're going to go up here. Hierarchies, okay? All right, you all should have something like this. If you don't have what they call as a Tibetan measuring stick, we talked about these last week. It's just designed for comparison, comparing the lengths and proportional sizes and angles of things. Okay, you can also use it to compare values and contrasts. Okay, so here's another one here. All right, let me increase the size of my shape. If you find you have a background or a plane or even the sky or something like that, any shape can be reduced. If it's your job to recognize what the characteristics are of that shape, you'll create a little V sign and you look at the values. So for instance, this person looks like they're looking up at the sky. This is a backwards peace sign. But you can see, if they were to render the sky, you could see that in between here, it's a little lighter, a little pinkier. And then you can see it gradates up and up and up. So this is a great tool for looking out when you're landscape painting, or if you're doing still life. It helps to isolate the masses. We're isolating the masses. Very simple. It's good to look through so you can also deduce the value relationships. This is another one, okay? The okay sign. Sometimes what you're looking at and you're trying to get the color of, or trying to figure out the characteristics of it, it's what you're looking at is being influenced by everything around it. So you isolate a portion of the mass, you create a little okay sign and you look through it like this, and that eliminates what's around it. Here's another way of doing it. You put your you could create yourself two little okay signs like so. Okay, thumb, ring finger, and you can put it on any plane that's out in front of you on a wall, and you can see which one is darker, which one's lighter, which one's warmer, which one's cooler, which one's richer, which one's grayer. All those things can be deduced because you're isolating two sections of one mass. And a lot of it has to do with what's reflecting on the mass, the distance that each plane of that mass is to your eyeball. And yeah, that's it, reflection. Okay, here's a real complicated one. Sometimes I use this. It's 3. Okay, 3 okay signs within one mass. So I have a door back here. I just shot this. So if I was to paint this thing, it's like, okay, I'll just paint a white door, okay? Or if I really want to make it more interesting and I have temperature variations and color variations and I have more choices because I'm isolating different areas of the same plane, and based on the proximity to the light source, you can see that this is grayer and this is a little lighter, and then look at how light that one is. So I guess I could have shown you a picture of the door, you know, so you would see that it's a little closer together than you think. So this is a really great tool for, again, isolating different sections. So now if I were to render the door, I could, on a painting, I could be aware of those characteristics and value changes and maybe temperature changes and make something more interesting, because that's what we're here to do, is take something that's mundane, like a white door, and use temperature variations and value changes in the application of whatever medium that we're using, and making it more interesting. That way the viewer can walk up to it and say, God, look at all those nuances. Okay? All right, so okay signs. All right, value. Okay, I was going to do a demo for you here. We've got value scale. This is basically how everything is out in front of you if you were living in a black and white world. We talked about value a little bit last week, and Notans. Okay, what a Notan is going to do is going to separate everything from here to here, or white. It's just, you know, black and white. Simple value structure. This is just one way of compartmentalizing a value scale. Okay, this is one way of simplifying it, is from gradating, nice and soft, dark to light. Okay, there are many, 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 many more values than a value scale that shows 1 to 9 or black to white. Many more values. There could be, you know, 100 values in here. Okay. All right. Terminology. You need to know darkest values are 1s, 2s, 3s. Mid values, 4s, 5s, 6. Okay. Lighter values, 7, 8, 9. Okay. You can also go 10 if you want. or you can go -0, whatever that is, maybe space, I'm not sure. Sometimes when you're doing a rendering like a Notan, okay, I have this backwards because some people, they go the opposite. They call pure white 1 and pure black 10. But I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised that way. The darkest values are the lower numbers. So when you're doing thumbnail sketches or preliminary sketches or Notans, you're going to just be thinking about simplifying your sketches and your patterns into these 5 values. No more than 5 values. For landscape, the sky might be a 1. I'm sorry, it might be a 9. Forget these numbers. It might be a 9 or pure white. Okay, then you've got a couple mid values, and then you've got your darkest values. All right, but this is also called the middle key. The reason why you want to be aware of this when you're doing your preliminary sketches and your painting is because if you develop and harmonize your painting in this range here first, and your painting is established in abstract notes of color first, you can slightly go out and darken your darkest values here, which through the process of relativity in painting will make this value look lighter. Then you can go for these values here and make them slightly lighter, and that will make this value look darker. Then you go here to make this one look lighter, and then you go here to make this one look darker. Okay? If you don't get that, you will get it again. Okay, so terminology, saturation of hue means full-on chroma, max power of a color. Okay, everything's saturated here. Let's say this is your mid value of your red, your yellow, your red, your blue, and your green. They're saturated here. You add a little white and lighten it, they start to tint out. You add a little black, they start to turn to shades. But you can see how the black is added to each of these pure chromad hues, and you can see what it does to them and darkens them down in value. Or conversely, when you add white, how it lightens them in value. Now, you take this exact same scale and you desaturate it, you take away the chroma, and you've got this. These are the values in when you take away the chroma. All right, so when you're looking at something to paint, some color to utilize within your design, you're asking yourself, what color is it? What value is it? You imagine this red, this blue, this green in and on this value scale. Look at how close together these are. Interesting, yes? So that you just keep it in the back of your mind, so it's going to make it easier for you to choose the right color notes. And if the value is right, the color will be right. Now, this is the illusion of value here. In painting, everything is relative to what's next to it. Here we have the middle values here. Okay, the 4, 5, 6 range is right about in here. Okay. This is one tone that falls between the values. Okay, that value is probably right in here. So let's say this is maybe a 6 right in here. So we're borrowing from this, but because of the theory of relativity, and this is one value of 6, if you want to make something look darker, place something lighter next to it. You want to place something, make something look lighter, place something darker next to it. So in harmonizing in value, when you start in a mid-value-ish range, okay, part of the painting process is learning to orchestrate your juxtaposing notes of color and notes of value, okay, to make something look a certain way, give it a certain characteristic, just by who's in the neighborhood. All right. Do you understand that? Is that pretty good? Everybody get that?
Makes sense.
Okay. I'm glad I'm recording this because you will be able to come back in time. Okay.
It also made it get thinner.
Yeah, the illusion is, yeah, it disappears, doesn't it? It looks like it disappears. And it looks like this is wider. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see. Student writing relative to the line and shape. Okay, I was going to have you do this. So you all have this. I want you to do these 4 really quick. Okay. We're going to spend about 15 minutes doing this. These are all value scales. Again, you notice some of these patterns that we dealt with. All right. So I want you to show me some hatching. Okay. It's the same value of line basically, but they're just closer together. And then cross hatching to adjust the value of that same value. Okay. Stippling are just dots. This would probably work really well with a pen, you know, a fine pen. But you can use a 6B drawing pencil. And then here's your scribbling. So what I want you to do is just draw, let's say, 4 of these bands. And make them and separate them all into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can go to 9 if you want. What people tend to do is they go too dark. But they go too dark at this stage here, and there's too much contrast between what would normally be white. So, for instance, I'm going to go here. Let's see if I can draw something here for you on this. I'm going to go here. So you can add another bar on the end here and here, and that could be pure white. Okay, that's in case you screw up. And if there's still not enough, you know, like if there's way too much contrast in here, like it looks like there is, you can actually, you know, draw another one to get you out of that mess. Okay. All right. So this is an exercise in controlling the amount of pressure on your pencil, the technique of hatching, and then cross hatching, and then you know, placement of point. Where I'd love it if you, before you start, is if you think about maybe starting in a mid-value range and just doing some vertical lines from the mid-value range and work out from there. That'll get you practice in harmonizing in value. That includes with these here, the points. Okay, so it is now, timing wise, it's 10 o'clock. Let's say we'll connect at 10:09. Let's connect back at 10:20 or 10:25. That way, if you want to also take a break, stretch your legs and stuff, you can do that.
Thomas, I can't stay after class today, but did you get my homework? This is Julia.
Yes, I did. It was a figurative piece. You sent me the figurative piece, and remind me again what you sent.
I sent, for this class, I sent a drawing of the woman.
Of the woman. Oh, well, yeah, I did get it, but I thought that was for the figure drawing class. So, right? Because you did that in the figure drawing class.
Oh, the woman rowing the boat?
Yeah. I guess no, I guess you didn't. Hold on.
Sure.
Hold on. Bryson. Julia, there you are.
I sent it to you last week or something like that. I sent it not long past, like the day. I think I sent it last Monday.
Okay, I'll look for it here.
Thomas, this is Kurt Meyer.
Hi, Kurt.
I sent you something yesterday by email for this class.
Okay.
I would love to have you take a look at it when you can.
Yeah.
Me too, Thomas. This is Cassie.
Kurt, Cassie. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we will do it at the end of this class. I'll bring you all up on this big screen here and put your name in and we'll find it. Because I am not seeing Julia. Let's see.
I could send it again.
Yeah, you could do that.
No,
That simplifies
not a
things.
problem.
If it's not a problem.
Okay, now. Yeah. Sorry, I have physical therapy, so I have to go a little. I can't stay on after.
Okay. Okay, we've got. You don't have to be perfect with this one. I'm not going to be checking it. But again, it's just to slow your eye down and develop that hand-eye coordination. So you have an awareness of what it is you're doing. That's all. I don't care if you go outside the boxes either. That's totally fine. I mentioned earlier before the class that I'd spent a year traveling around the world with a backpack, and I just did charcoal renderings in my sketchbook, and that's what taught me how to see value, or at least it helped me to get in that mindset of seeing value. But I've since come to a better understanding of how to do it. But if I can get you all to recognize value, that would be a really good thing. If you don't have a piece of red glass or red acetate, to look through, I would recommend getting something like that. That would help you also to see value.
How do you use that?
I'll show you in a minute. Otherwise, I'd have to give a new screen share.
Also, Thomas, you mentioned getting a stick.
Yeah.
I didn't miss that last week. What kind of stick? Just like a
Stick.
a dowel or a square stick?
Yeah, a piece of dowel that's a foot long. They call it a Tibetan measuring stick. But
Okay.
if you don't have one, you would just use your brush.
Oh, okay.
Or your pencil.
Okay.
And it's just basically to divide up any plane, and so you can compare the left side to the right side, or if you hold it, that's holding it vertically, or horizontally, dividing it so you can see and compare above it or below it.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you.
And if you don't have that, use your finger.
Okay, always available.
Yes, well, let's hope so. Let's hope your fingers.
After doing all this stippling, I'm not sure I'm going to have a finger actually.
Oh boy.
It's getting tired already.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay,
You
squint
don't
your
need
eyes.
us to send you these, do you?
No. This is not
Okay.
homework. This is just, we're just spending
Yeah.
time. Again, we're applying the theory of dark to light, pattern density, okay,
Got
to
it.
control the value, etc. So if you squint your eyes, you can see this nice gradation happening. Or here even, it's a gradation. Of course, this is probably a 4B or 6B pencil here. There's some negative space in the scribbling. But you can just see that there's variations in value based on proximity of the marks, as well as pressure on the line.
That's hard to do with an ink. Oops.
Yes,
That's
it
hard
is.
to do it
Yes,
with a
it is. So you
micron.
have to be
Yeah.
very, very,
Light or
succinct with
Yeah.
ink. Succinct.
Okay. Thanks.
Let's take about another 3 minutes, and then we'll move on. You can finish these on your own.
Thomas, I sent that.
If you want to do a screenshot, of this, you can do that as well, and you can work from it on your own as well. All right, Julia, yes?
I sent the email.
Okay. All righty then. Thank you. Thank you.
Skipping the stippling one.
You are.
Okay, let's do two more minutes.
Pressure's on, man.
Yeah.
I'm going like hammered hell here.
It's good. You don't have to worry about finishing it. Okay. You get the idea. Now you have terminology. You've got hatching, cross hatching, stippling, scribbling. I'm not adding those figure eights or anything, those things in there. But anything can become a pattern. All right. Anything is a pattern, made up of patterns, and can become a pattern if you so choose as a tool, right? So, and I don't know why, but I'm thinking of the shape of a couch. You know, if you drew your couch is composed of patterns. But if you had a humongous building-sized canvas, you can draw that pattern of the couch many, many times in this exact same way. These could all be couches from space, in other words. All right? Anything can become a tool and or a pattern. Okay, so let's say that's good. All right? I'm going to take care of they're all drawings, okay? And clear this. All right, next. Okay, this is going to be fun. That's fun. All right, is there anybody that did not download that Notan app? Yeah, anybody?
Thomas, this is Stacy.
Hi.
Hi. Since I mentioned, can I do it on my MacBook Pro?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I did it on my iPad, and I didn't see it on my MacBook Pro, but you can do it on your phone. Okay. So.
Yeah, it's just such a small phone. It's hard to do any.
Okay. All right.
But
I couldn't do it on my MacBook Pro. I couldn't find it. It didn't come up for me.
Oh boy.
You can do apps on your MacBook Pro.
All right. Well, okay. I sent this link here. This is kind of what I hoped you guys would kind of look up. And they've, of course, they went for the simplified demo here of James McNeill Whistler and Whistler's mothers. So again, we're back to grays. We're back to black, white, and gray. And a little bit of body.
Excuse me, Thomas, it's Nina. I have a question regarding the Notan. When you looked at my painting, you said it wasn't a Notan because Notan is only black and white. But
That's
now
right.
you've just said they're grays. So they're grays in this one.
Just hold on. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
This is the actual
Thank you.
paint. This is the actual painting.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Whistler's painting. It's a
color.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And I didn't choose this. This is what the author here is looking at in as far as explaining, okay, his methodology in doing Notans. Okay. So there's your Notan there. You understand? That's a simplified
Sure, but the
variation
whole-
of this. This is the actual painting, and this is the Notan. It's a black and white contrasting painting.
So Notan is only used in areas where there are shadows and it's dark.
Your job is to reduce it to black and white. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Here's what's in
Sure,
front of you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Here's what's in front of you. Okay. And there is your Notan.
Okay, I see that.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's an exercise in simplification and unity. Okay. You're learning to unify your image. This is the basic abstract structure within the format. Okay, and you're looking for balance. You're looking for, where the structure is falling within the format as well. Okay, here's an example. Monet was really good at it. He loved to do things in silhouette and simplify the harmony. You can see here how he's working with 2 or 3 values in a Notan. Okay, if you were to do the Notan on it, that's what it would be, black and white. Here,
so
this is beyond, this is the original colored painting, and then as a Notan in black and white, this is what it would look like. The more gray tones you add, then you start to see more structure. Okay, this is just black and white. It's not a really good way of going through life, seeing things in black and white, but it helps.
So it's just a tool. Notan is just a tool.
Absolutely.
It's not.
Correct.
It's not the finished painting.
That's
okay,
right.
I see that. Thank you.
Right. So here, if you squint your eyes, now you're just going to say, okay, this is the image before me. Okay, and I'm trying to deduce black and white and gray scales in between, not the colors. I'm looking for grays. So if you squint your eyes, you kind of see the darker value here. You see the next lightest value here. And then you see some grays in the trees. Then you see this value here. And then you finally see the lightest values in the sky. So that's kind of like 3 to 4 values right there.
You can see it by doing your little finger, the technique by looking through the pinhole of your finger. You can
yes, there you go. Yeah, you can compare the values. Because remember, you're no longer just taking color for granted. You have to ask yourself, what value is the color? What value is it? And then what is it in relationship to what's next to it? All right, these are ways of improving your designs, because you're diagnosing what's in front of you for the purpose of creating a more unified painting or picture. Okay, there's an example of the Monet again. If you squint your eyes, imagine this as a black and white or a Notan. It's just going to basically be this here and this here. There you go.
I have a question about this class. Are you going to be working on color, like being able to lighten and darken values of specific colors?
I'm not too sure about that. I do in the color class that I teach in January, but this class we'll mostly be doing design work or the consciousness of color for design and how it can be utilized. Okay. Last one here. Okay, so this looks like it's got a lot of values, all right? You've got your lightest values, you've got your darkest values, you've got mid values in here and here, okay? Mid-value lights and highlights, okay? And this is what it would look like as a Notan. It's just the basic structure of the black and white within the format. So the amount of emphasis that you might consider placing where you want the viewer's eye to go has some coordination. Okay, you're looking for balance overall. All right, last one. I thought that was one. This is John Singer Sargent. So you see, again, okay, I want you to do Notan of it. This is dark, all right? This is light, okay? Then you've got these mid-values in here, these mid-values and mid-value grays, and you've got these highlights over here. You know, he wants to draw the viewer's eye over here just a little bit more than, say, here. So look at the contrast. Placing this a little darker against the light, it becomes an area he wants you to look at. All right, so there you go. That's a 3-value. 3-value Notan, okay? 4-value Notan. This is a Reppin painting.
Thomas, can you pick how many values in that Notan?
Yes, you can pick as many as you want.
Okay, cool.
But you'll become you'll move farther faster if you limit it and harmonize it in value. Yeah. Limit it and harmonize it in value. In the beginning stages especially. And then by pushing your value extremes for the purpose of moving the viewer's eye around the composition, okay, that can be developed when you're painting the painting, okay?
What do you mean by limit and harmonize it?
Harmonize in value?
Yeah.
Harmonize in value is that you establish your value structures. Let me just do this. It's a good question. Remember I said the mid-value? Wait, okay, we're done with this, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go back up to the note. Here, okay, remember mid-values, high values, dark values. Mid-value range, high value range, darker or low value range. Your painting may overall be a nocturne and it harmonizes here. All the values, or almost all the values, are here. Okay, or it might be a snow painting. And so all your values might be here. It harmonizes right here. You don't have this dark way up here. It's too contrasty. So you're thinking about harmonizing the overall painting by keeping your value structures closer together.
Okay,
and then
thank you.
Mid-value range here, this is where I like to start, okay? Mid-value range, my darkest value, even though it might look here, I'll start here. And then my next lightest, and next lightest, and next lightest, and my lightest value structure might be here. That's just to establish the overall harmony of the painting from the very beginning. And when I do that, after the painting is established abstractly, then I start over again and I slightly make my darks darker, which makes the lights look lighter. Then I take my lights and I make them look lighter, which makes my darks look darker. And then I go back and forth and I sneak out from there, still harmonizing within the middle range here, but not as much. So by the time I get to my next to darkest value, I might only have to go here rather than way out here. I'm harmonizing in value. And same with my highlights. My highlights might not be pure white. They may be in here, but there's enough value separation between, because I'm holding things together. My lightest value might be here. So all I have to do to put a highlight on might be like right here. It's not the extreme of white, okay? But there's still enough separation between my lightest value and a highlight, okay, that it gives the illusion of that separation, and it pops, and it's still in harmony with the painting value-wise.
Okay.
I think a good analogy in photography is zone system, like Ansel Adams used to magnificent effect.
Okay, that sounds good, the zone system. Great. All right, so this is a Dan McCaw, master painter. This is my teacher here. This is a colored image, okay? And you can see there's a value structure within the design. You can see where he wants you to go, you know, the eyes moving around. But before, and I'm a witness to this because I flew with him to Boston and New York to look at the Impressionist paintings. And he had a sketchbook with him, and he was just doing out of his imagination, you know, these thumbnail sketches, simplifying into Notans, black and white structures. So speaking of black and white, when you reduce that, that painting to a grisaille, or all the value structure here in black and white, you can see the structure, your darkest values and the lightest values kind of in the center, okay, breaking a rule. But look at the variations in shapes. Look at this big simplified shape in the background. Okay, here's your Notan. Here's your black and white rendering of that. That's of his painting. That's not done from a photo. That's just of his painting. What I did, I put that onto the Notan, the Notanizer, and I went through all the structures. Here's the Notan, black and white. Okay, here it is with 3 levels of gray. Okay, basically it's the black, the mid-value gray, and then the light. Okay, I'm getting stronger in my understanding and seeing and tying shapes together via value. Okay, here's four levels of gray. It's simplifying a painting so we don't get too distracted by all the many values that are out there in front of us. Again, you might have, you know, 10, 12, 15 different values out in front of you, but your job is to simplify and unify. Okay? All right, so here they all 4 of them are together. So you've got your grisaille, okay? And here's your Notan, black and white. Here's your 3 levels of gray, and here's your 4 levels of gray. If I kept going to 5, 6, 7 levels of gray, 8, 9, 10, you're going to wind up back at your grisaille right here. It's a great tool to get you out of your mind, out of your analytical mind, and forcing you to find the basic structured patterns of what it is you're looking at. So you don't necessarily have to render everything as complicated as it might look. Okay? Unity is everything here. Yes?
Seems to me this is what we used to call posterization.
Yes. Yeah, that's all part of the process. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do a demo here. Let's see. I'm going to go to a new share. And I'm going to go here.
Thomas, for the
Yes?
is it called Notan or Notanizer?
Well, the app is called the Notanizer.
Okay, thanks.
App is called the Notanizer, but the language is Notan. It's Japanese, I believe, for light and dark contrast, like chiaroscuro, but it's a way of graphically presenting your shapes. You get a strong value relationship graphically. Your paintings are going to hold together much better. That's one of the reasons why the Japanese had such a huge influence on 19th century artists in Europe with their woodblock prints, because they worked these Notans to death. So let's go with my Notan, okay? So here you go. You can see this. I took a picture of a still of Dan's painting. So I want to see the grisaille of it. So here's the grisaille. Okay, that's just basically desaturating the color and looking at the values in black and white, giving me an idea of the value structure and the composition. Okay, you've got, I don't know if I can draw over this or not. Let's see. No, I can't. All right, so then I'm going to say, okay, well, I want to, let's go to the Notan. Let's get it basic structure here. Okay, big abstract. Okay, it's highly abstract. But look at how the eye moves. Okay, goes from this big simplified area up to this diagonal here and up and around. Okay, value structure. Okay, let's go to the three levels here. Okay, so I'm adding a mid-value gray. You have white, mid-value gray, and still your darker patterns are holding together. Here's a 4 level. Okay. Value structure, again, the blacks, mid-value grays, light mid-value grays, okay? And then your highlights. You get to see them all right here, okay? They're all right there in the hair, the back of the shirt, what's in shadows tied together, and then the highlights. Okay, and then this one here is all the different levels. On the Notan, I can increase the, or I'll deconstruct it for you here. Here, there's 10 levels of value, 9 levels, 8 levels, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 levels, and then the Notan. Boom. All right, so now I have choices I can make, and I'm more aware of the values than ever before. Okay? Even in a lighter structure like so, you can see Old Master's technique. You place something dark in the foreground to move your eye into the background. All right. How's that? Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Maybe you'll be getting to this, but I've read about something like a little, like 3 values, like a little, a lot, and then something like there's, I don't know, you're supposed to have a little of something, one value, and then a lot of another, and then.
Yeah, balance wise. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you want variation. You want variations. Like in this case, there's a lot of black. There's a lot of black. There's a little bit of mid-value tone, and then more white. So yeah, there is a balance. I'm sure it's going to vary between which ones you have, but yeah, you want to be aware of that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it anyway.
Yeah, we'll figure that out and let me know, okay?
Okay.
All right. All righty then. Let's see. Let's go back to here. That's that. Notanizer. Okay. Woo! Break. Let's take a 5-minute break here. All right. And we're going to come back and we're going to get into, oh boy, we're going to get into some structure now. Okay. All right. So let's take a 5-minute break. I need to use the restroom here. I'm going to set my timer. Okay. So I wrote this down here. Not all who wander are lost. The direction you're facing has much to do with your destination. And that life, like creating a painting, is a learning journey. Much like living life, breath to breath, moment to moment, creating a painting is brushstroke to brushstroke. When we are not being creative, we are merely in between brushstrokes. This is one of my heroes here, Hunter Thompson. Okay. It's all about an adventure here, folks. And he said, buy the ticket, take a ride. All right, so now we're moving into going to have a little bit of fun with organizing the space. Okay, organizing the shapes. But before we do, I'm going to show you one more thing here. I want you all to have your sketchbook out. Okay, get your sketchbooks out, and I want you to let's see, you share. Hopefully my my iPad will show up here. It's not showing. Okay, can you all see that? In front of you here, you should have two dots. You see it?
Yes.
So this is more of the theory of relativity of what we're looking at. So when you're looking at things, you're not taking anything for granted. You're seeing what's in front of you, and you're looking as to why it looks or appears a certain way, and thinking about adjusting things from that point of view. So what I want you to do is I want you to draw two circles or two dots right there in front of you, pretty much the same size, just like you're seeing them right now. Okay, when you're all done. This is not a very complex demo. It's more of a fun thing to recognize the theory of relativity. So around the one on the left, I want you to make, hold on a second, let me get this working again here. Okay, I want you to make like 5 or 6 smaller dots, like so. Surrounding it. Okay. And then the one on the right, I want you to do even larger notes around it. So the whole point of this is to realize you can adjust the way something looks by changing the neighborhood, especially in painting. Those were the exact same size circles, but by juxtaposing different size or different characteristic shapes around it, I'm creating the illusion that this one is smaller, okay, and this one is larger. All right. Now, I want you to do this. I want you to create 2 parallel lines. Okay, 2 parallel lines. Let me bring up the Procreate pencil here. Just like this, equidistant. Both of them have to be 1 to 2 inches long. They don't have to be on the same page. Doesn't matter. Okay, I got to get my ruler. Where's my ruler? Okay. So once you have those 2 parallel lines there, I also want you to do 2 diagonal lines as you see here on the right. Right there. 2 diagonals, kind of starting 1 inch wide or so and moving down to maybe 1/4 inch. All right. So we'll let the show begin here. So I'm going to do, right now, I'm going to do this on my iPad. I'm going to put a ruler down, and on the line, on the vertical line on the left, I'm going to create a V at the top, like so. And a V at the bottom. Okay. Now, the next line to the right, I'm going to reverse order on that. I'm going to make the V, instead of going up and away from the shape or from that line, I'm going to make it go down in both directions. One there. And one here. So what you're going to see is that the lines, based on what I put next to them, have created the illusion that one line is longer than the other, but they're not. They're exactly the same length. It's an illusion. Okay, we can move on to those diagonal lines. And I'm going to draw two lines that are pretty much the same in length. The one on the left is going to go here. So that's like it's an inch and a quarter. And I'm going to go over to the right-hand side and do the same exact thing. Inch and a quarter, like so. Oh, that didn't work. Hold on a second. What happened to that? The iPad doesn't like does not like a ruler on it. Okay. Okay. So those are the parallel lines. They're the same distance. And the idea is that you're creating the illusion of space and depth because of the distance here, the distance here to here makes this left line look smaller. And then the one on the right makes it look longer. It's the illusion of proximity. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on. New share. All right. And we're going to go back to here. All right.
Last
sorry?
one.
What?
Am I the only one who didn't understand that last one? The illusion?
The illusion? I guess so.
All right.
The one on the left, it's just the proximity of the distance of the diagonals to the line on the left. They were wider apart. So it makes the line look smaller or look shorter.
It might be more effective if you made the lines that converge go toward the top instead of toward the side, because then you get the sense of the horizon in the distance, and you put those lines in and they look different in size.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and draw it and show me. Okay.
No, I get it now. Thank you.
Draw it. No, but go ahead and draw that and show me. Okay.
Me?
Yes. My ancestry is from Missouri, the Show Me State. So you came up with that idea. So let's see. I want to see it. All right. Okay. Here we go. Organizing the space and format. Last week we discussed format. Let's look at some in-depth research. Now you're going to like this guy. This guy's name is Andrew Loomis. It would behoove you to look him up because he's one of the greatest all-time artist illustrators. Just amazing, phenomenal artist. Okay, and now I'm going to cancel that, move this out of the way. All right. This is Andrew Loomis here. Can you all see this? Okay. So Andrew Loomis.
We're looking at Hunter Thompson.
Hunter
All right,
Thompson.
hold on. Stand by. It's coming.
And I think you mean by the.
There you go. How's that? Okay. All right, Andrew Loomis. This is an example of one of his illustrations, and it's all shape. It's all design. It's all light and dark. Just an amazing illustrator. Okay, but he came away, I was studying this. This is really good for us to pay attention to. You've got your four formats here. Basically, it's rectangle. So this is pretty basic, but it's also invaluable. Okay, so he says, let us begin with simple distribution of space. Okay, this was a blank format. Okay, you divide it in two, you get two shapes. Yes, you divide it in crosswise, you get four shapes. You divide it in diagonals. Okay. Equal distribution of shape has the monotony of hitting the same note on a piano. Great saying. Monotony of hitting the same note on a piano. So in other words, if you divide your picture plane into two shapes, okay, it's monotonous. Same with this. This can be monotonous. You notice what it does. It gives you a target right here in the middle. Okay, it is. Its interest is equally divided, much like repeating your name without changing your voice. It has a rather mechanical appearance. So all of these basically have kind of a monotony to them. Here's your horizon line, dead center, creating two redundant shapes. Same with this diagonal here, which is called the Baroque, creates two equidistant shapes. All right. Now, when you start to offset things, okay, when you've divided the space more unequally, you've moved that center line off to the left, you've created a variation in shape. The areas are no longer the same. It's more like changing your voice and adding a few words or some extra notes to the original note on the piano. Observe that we have not changed the lines, only their position on the picture space. Okay, so you've taken these two diagonals, for instance, you've moved one up a little bit and one down a little bit. So now look at the variations of shape. This is even slightly more of a larger shape than this. Same with this. You've created the variations in shapes here, much like you did over here. Let me get my annotator in here. Okay, and same with this one there. It was here perfectly, cutting it in two, and now we've got a variation in shape. Okay, we now have divided the space more unequally. The areas are no longer the same. It is more like changing your voice. Okay, I said that. All right. Now, we've now taken the same lines as above and given them movement. What do you think gives them movement?
Curves.
What do you mean by movement? Anybody? Movement.
Curves.
Curves. Yes, and maybe even some some calligraphy, rough, smooth, thick, thin, variations. The areas now begin to intrigue the imagination. This is dividing space. This is dividing space's design. And he asked me this question: don't you find this group more interesting than the previous two? Yes. It's fun. It's fun. There's calligraphy, movement. Okay, this is a good one. Sorry?
Having the curves, the movement, guide your eye more than just the squares or the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, it does. Yeah, it creates variation in shape.
I also think it makes the drawing much more lively because life is curvaceous and not usually static. So
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I tell you what, if I'm not learning something, then there's something static about my environment. It's my own fault. So maybe that's why I'm always looking for a different way of seeing things and finding humor in the mundane, or just trying to break things up. Because there is a lot of staticness out there. It's how we interpret it. So this is a
Humans
great...
respond to organic form.
Yes. Bingo! Nicely done on that. For those of you who don't understand organic form, that means any element in design that represents subject matter from nature, or a representation of something that could be a subject matter from nature. Okay, so in other words, this could be an ocean rolling here, you know, that idea, or a couple a road going through, you know, mountains. Okay, more from a bird's eye perspective, or yeah, bird's eye perspective, bird's eye view. Okay, so now we have a more have added tone to the different areas, balancing the weight of interest in each case with an added form. A small element of great interest will balance a much larger elements of lesser interest. Okay, so you've got your formats, you've got your basic design, which was here, okay? And he simplified it. He made some of it and most of it, the larger area, in white, okay, the smaller area in black, and then he added a shape to kind of balance it out. Okay, so he's changing it just from the contour lines. Now he's making a decision on what to add or not. And here, in this case, he kept a negative space down below here. Okay, here you go. This is an interesting way of looking at things. A landscape. It almost looks like a boat. Okay, but again, there's a variety of shapes. And this is kind of intersecting what would be here. And another smaller added element of black and white. This is more or less Notan work. Okay, same here, added elements. Same here, added elements. Okay. All right, this is a good ruling right here, okay? The object or spot placed in the center, okay, causes the eye to move back and forth from the object to the sides, okay? Here to here to here, okay? You look at something, your eye just naturally is going to want to go to the sides. But what you've done by placing something in the center here, okay, you've created redundancy of shape. Sides, top, bottom, corners equally. This spot, division around the spot soon becomes monotonous. Equal division of space results in visual boredom. So that's why we got to be careful. Unless we're deliberately trying to break the rules and placing something dead center, or dividing it here or there, and then coming up with a way to make one more interesting than the other, like putting another shape in here or something. So we forget that there's been a rule broken. The center is undesirable for the location for the main element of the picture, unless you're doing graphic design and advertising, okay? And you're trying to make a point graphically. Okay, you take that spot, move it from the center up to the left-hand corner to the sides, just like in that that video that we watched from Otis Art Institute. Okay, you're creating tension here. Spot extremely placed up to the up here, as to lead the eye to one of the corners, has a tendency to divide the picture space into areas that have no pleasing relation to each other or to the whole area. So in other words, this is just like it's all on its own, and then this is all on its own. They're not really, you know, it's almost monotonous. It's out of balance here. This is kind of what they did here graphically. Space is unrelated because too great a contrast. You've got to be careful where you put your areas of interest. You've got to be able to support it there. Maybe you'll put something down here or off to the side here or here. So you can have that, but then maybe have their eye come here or here and then back up. A spot here produces an emptiness in the remainder of the picture area. So an emptiness, what's the emotional impact of that emptiness? Not today, but next week we're going to look at some elements, psychological elements in design to exact certain emotions in the viewer. Not today. Okay. The spot when placed in this position is satisfying to the eye The location of the object is good anywhere within the frame. Lines provided, it is not in the center of the picture. Space or too near, in the picture space or too near the picture plane. So picture frame line. You can see there's a variation in shape here. Okay, there's variation in shape. So we're much freer now.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Have they done studies on that? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah, this is years. Andrew Loomis was an illustrator in the 50s. And, you know, he has influenced an entire generation of illustrators. So if that's what you mean by studies, psychologically, we'll get to that next.
Okay.
Or next week when we look at compositions and dynamic elements that evoke certain emotional responses in the viewer. Andrew Loomis, this is just basic, you know, separation of space here. And, you know, when you sit with them for a while, you do get to know what they're talking about.
Thomas, which one of it, is this out of one of his books?
Yes.
Which one is it?
I'm not quite sure. But you can just Google him. You'll see it.
No, I have 3 or 4. I have a couple of his books, especially the one on portraiture.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen this before.
Ah, good. All right. Well, it's out there. It's very basic. This is like, you know, this is like straight and level flight as a pilot, learning to fly. Okay. The spot was not placed by guesswork. Did you read that? The spot was not placed by guesswork or feeling, but by a definite knowledge of measure. Okay. So that's what I wanted to introduce you to there. Okay. And now let me go back up. I'm going to do a new share. Okay. Now we're back home again. All right. All right. Now the next thing. Okay. How many here have heard of the rule of thirds? Rule of thirds.
Yes.
Okay. It's pretty basic, but
yes.
There is a debate going on about the validity of it, or, you know, the mythology around it. So you're going to get to see something now. All right. Have a little fun.
Hey everyone, Yasin here, and in this composition lesson, I'm going to be talking about the rule of thirds. Now, this is probably the most widely used composition rule, and the reason is that it's very simple and it's very effective. So here we have 2 compositions, and it's just one horizontal and one vertical. It's a table with a vase of flowers. So basically, the rule of thirds is explaining where to put focal points, or you know, where to line things up. So all you do is you divide your page into thirds. So every third you make lines, and then at the points, at the intersection points where the lines cross, that's where you'd have a focal point. So here, 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 here. And it's also a good idea to place points of interest on these lines if possible. So let's just say I wanted to correct this composition to make it fit the rule of thirds. And again, this is, you know, this is a rule, but it doesn't really mean that you have to follow this. It's just, it creates appealing compositions pretty easily. So I would just move like the table so it's on that third, and then I would move this flower pot, you know, here, or maybe here. And instantly it's a better composition. So I don't know why, but I like it better on this side. And, you know, we could do the same thing for the other side. Just move the table so it lands on that third, and move the vase.
This is basically what you do in thumbnail sketches.
There we go. So now these are 2 appealing compositions. All right, now here I
variety of
have
shapes.
a little bit of a more complicated composition, but we can still use the rule of thirds and just play around with things. So one thing I could do is I could, pretty much we all know the focal point is probably going to be this lighthouse and probably the top of it. It's just what stands out the most. It's an area of contrast. So we can move this around. We could put the lighthouse here, and that's a pretty interesting composition. Again, I'm keeping the lighthouse on this line here. You can move it really low. That's not so great. Try putting it up here. And I can also line this ground plane to this horizontal line. And that'll give, again, an interesting composition. I could, raise it so the water is higher and actually on this line. And so that's a lot better composition than when we started.
Once your eye moves up.
And again, could lower the water, could just move things around a lot just to see, could raise things. So
it's easy with
moving the water around.
A lot of interest happening on a third. So, you can experiment quite a bit. It doesn't have to be so specific. It just creates interesting compositions, just having this in mind, placement on thirds. And there's another thing, which is that, after you've used this a lot, because it's so widely used, it's a very common composition trick or tool or rule. Sometimes it gets boring. So you might want to vary things up by putting things, near thirds, but not exactly on them. And it might be more interesting because it's just, you still feel it, but it's got a little bit of spice to it, I guess you could say. So I'd encourage you to play around with it. Now, if you're in Photoshop CS6, I'm not sure if CS5 has it, maybe, but if you use the...
That's enough. We got one more. Stand by. Pretty basic. Hold on. Can you still see my, yeah. All right. This is another one that's also...
Do you want to make your art compositions more successful?
It's a little
Of
shorter.
course you do. And in this lesson, I'm going to share an easy technique called the rule of thirds that you can apply to your drawings and paintings to make them more aesthetically successful.
Let's give some more context.
Hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com. And in this lesson, I'm going to share with you a technique that you can apply to your drawings and paintings to make them more aesthetically successful. Now, of course, this technique is dealing with composition, and composition refers to the way the elements or subjects are laid out on the picture plane in your drawings and paintings. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to take a look at several different examples. We're going to take a look also at some things to watch out for, because you can't just be tied to one compositional technique. There are flaws to every compositional technique, and we're going to cover a few of those here in this lesson. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rule of thirds. So we'll start here with just a blank screen, and I want you to imagine that this blank screen is your drawing paper or your canvas. We're going to start by dividing the surface down into thirds. We'll start with a couple of vertical lines here, and then we'll add a couple of horizontal lines as well. Now, each one of these sections is basically a third of your drawing paper or your canvas. You can see that we've divided it by thirds, both horizontally and vertically. Now, we can notice that the locations where the horizontal lines and the vertical lines intersect, we have these points. These points are excellent locations to place subjects of importance, like your focal point within the scene. But just showing you some lines and showing you some points is really not going to help you too much. Let's look at some practical examples and take a look at how we can use the rule of thirds to make our compositions a little bit more successful. We'll start by taking a look at this photo of a lighthouse. And let's imagine that you were going to draw or paint this lighthouse. Now, this composition is fairly strong on its own, but let's see if we can improve it using our knowledge of the rule of thirds. The first thing we'll do is we'll crop our image down to a more horizontal composition. And we'll also layer over the top our grid. And you can see here that in this case, the lighthouse lines up with one of the intersecting points on the lower right-hand corner. You'll also notice that our horizon line also is in alignment with the bottom third. Now, this is using the rule of thirds here, and this composition is okay, but it still feels visually heavy at the bottom. Now, you might choose to do a composition like this if you're wanting to put emphasis on the sky. But in this particular case, the sky is rather bland. There's not a lot of interest there, and that's why this composition feels a little heavy towards the bottom of the picture plane. Let's see if we can improve it, again, using the rule of thirds. First, we'll go back to our original photo and take a look at it again, just for reference purposes. Now we've cropped the image to be more of a square composition. Now let's lay our grid over the top and take a look at where our elements line up in this composition. When we lay the grid over the top, we can see that our lighthouse has now moved up to the upper right-hand corner. We have those two intersecting lines. And of course, that's a good place to put a subject of importance. But we also notice that in the foreground, we also have our mound of rocks that also lies within two of the intersecting lines. In this case, this composition is more successful than the original photo, and it's more successful than the example we just looked at. Now, let's look at another example. We'll next take a look at a portrait. Now, this photo is a wonderful photo. We've got some great things that are happening in the background. We have that dark tree in the upper right-hand corner that's creating some nice contrast. We have wonderful light that's happening in the background, but our subject is positioned right in the center of the picture plane. This is more of a static composition. Let's see if we can improve it using our knowledge of the rule of thirds. We'll first crop the image down, and we'll do so with the knowledge of the rule of thirds in mind. This means that we're going to position the figure over on the right side of the picture plane and allow the background to fill up most of the left side of the picture plane. Now, since this figure is positioned with her body facing the left side of the picture plane, we'll allow the left side of the picture plane to be filled up with the background. You can imagine if she was positioned on the right side of the picture plane, it would feel a little bit awkward because her body would be facing away from the rest of the information. Now, let's go ahead and lay a grid over the top. Now, when we lay a grid over the top of this composition, you'll notice that I've positioned the figure to be in alignment with the vertical line on the right side of the picture plane. You'll notice that this line goes right through the top of her head, all the way down her body and off the bottom of the picture plane. You'll also notice that I've positioned the eyes to be in alignment with the top horizontal line. We're naturally drawn to the eyes of any subject that we draw, of course. It has to be subjects that have eyes, so this deals with people and animals. So it makes sense that this is going to be a natural focal point within the picture plane. Now, you'll also notice that we have an intersecting point up there in the upper right-hand corner, and her right eye is in alignment with this. So based on what we know about the rule of thirds and applying it to this particular composition, we've improved the original composition. We'll next take a look at an animal as our subject, and this is a wonderful photo on its own, but let's see if we can improve the composition by using the rule of thirds. We'll first go ahead and lay a grid over the top of this image and crop it down a bit. And you can see in this case, I've laid a grid over the top and I've cropped it so that the animal's eye is in alignment with one of those intersecting points. We can see this here, but there are some clear problems with this composition. First of all, you'll notice that the body goes off the picture plane on the right side at kind of an awkward place. We know that that ear continues off, but just a little bit off the picture plane. And there's a lot of negative space on the right side of the picture plane as well. So just because we're using the rule of thirds here, this doesn't necessarily improve the composition because we have some other compositional issues. Let's see if we can improve the composition while still using our knowledge of the rule of thirds. This time, I've moved the body of the dog so it's still in alignment with one of the thirds, the vertical line on the left side of the picture plane. But you'll notice the dog is positioned in a slightly different manner. The eye is not on one of those intersecting points. You'll also notice that now we have enough negative space on the left side of the picture plane around that ear, so we're not feeling a lot of visual weight on that side. Instead, it feels more visually balanced. We still have a lot of negative space on the left side of the picture plane, but again, it's still visually balanced. That negative space on the right side helps to balance out the positive space on the left side of the picture plane. So here we've used the rule of thirds to improve the composition while keeping in mind other compositional elements that are still important to creating an aesthetically successful composition. Now, let's look at another example. Here we have another portrait. Now, do you think that we can improve this composition by using the rule of thirds? Let's give it a shot. We'll first crop the image down based on our knowledge of the rule of thirds. This composition is fairly successful as well. If we lay a grid over the top, we can see that the eyes are in alignment with the top horizontal line, and the bulk of her figure is in alignment with the vertical line on the right side of the picture plane. But is it really better than our original composition? When we go back to our original composition, we'll notice some things happening in the background. In this particular case, we have some almost circular elements that are happening back there. We have some leaves and we have some shadows, and it almost seems like these have been manipulated to a certain degree to create more of a circular movement around the figure. This actually puts more focus on the face of the subject, and it also helps that the subject is positioned in the center portion of the picture plane. In this case, I feel like this composition is stronger as it is, instead of cropping it down and using the rule of thirds. So it's important to note that although we have the rule of thirds at our disposal, it's not always necessary to use in every drawing or painting that we create. Now, let's take a look at a few examples of how artists have used the rule of thirds in their compositions. Let's first take a look at this landscape painting by Albert Brito. You'll notice if we lay a grid over the top, we have an element of importance, the focal point, that lies in the intersecting points in the lower left-hand corner. We see a small building there, we see trees, we see a couple of figures. You'll also notice that the lower third, the lower horizontal third, is in alignment with the horizon line. Now, let's take a look at another example. Next, we'll take a look at this landscape painting by John Singer Sargent. Now, Sargent was a master at composition, and we can see why in this painting. In this painting, he's used the rule of thirds to position certain elements within the scene to make a more aesthetically successful composition. If we layer a grid over the top, we can see that in the upper right-hand corner, we have the crashed airplane, which falls on one of the intersecting points. And in the lower left-hand corner, we can see that the figures we see in the foreground also are in alignment with one of the intersecting points within the picture plane. Let's take a look at another example. This painting by Delacroix is fairly dramatic, but let's see how Delacroix used the rule of thirds to create an aesthetically successful composition. If we lay a grid over the top based on the rule of thirds, we can see that the boat in the main area of focus is in alignment with the lower horizontal line. We'll also notice that Christ is very close to an intersecting point in the lower left-hand corner. This, of course, creates a more aesthetically successful composition. And now for another example. In the self-portrait by Cezanne, we can see that he also used the rule of thirds to create a more successful composition. You'll notice that the bulk of the body is in alignment with the vertical line on the left side of the picture plane, and the eyes are also in alignment with the top horizontal line within the picture plane. The rule of thirds works for virtually any subject matter that you encounter. In this painting by Van Gogh, we can see that Van Gogh also used the rule of thirds to create a more aesthetically successful composition. If we lay a grid over the top, we can see that the blue ginger container on the right side of the picture plane is in alignment with the right vertical line. And we'll also notice that the bulk of the apples within the scene are in alignment with the lower horizontal line within the picture plane as well. This, of course, leads to a more successful composition. The rule of thirds also works for abstract or non-objective pieces. In this work by Kandinsky, we can see that he's positioned most of the visually heavy elements in alignment with the left vertical line within the picture plane. We can also see the circle at the bottom left-hand corner is very close to that intersecting point with the bottom horizontal line. So as you can see, the rule of thirds is an excellent and easy way to improve your artistic compositions. But you also have to keep in mind that
All right. Now, one last one, because I don't want you guys to get reliant on that. Okay. It's really basic. If you've noticed your iPhones, you've got a setting on your iPhones that has that same third or rule of thirds grid pattern. But now I want you to see this so you don't get caught. You don't get stuck in it.
Like many other artists, I was brainwashed into thinking that the rule of thirds was an acceptable method of composing an image. I guess that really depends on the standard of art you'd like to produce. Art at the master level like Da Vinci, Bouguereau, Degas, Rubens, or art like a Sunday painter whose goal is to hang their painting in the local antique store, not the prestigious gallery or museum. Without composition, art cannot flourish. And when using the rule of thirds to guide your composition, you'll end up in a dark alley waiting to be maliciously fondled by mediocre art. This might sound harsh. Well, it kind of is. We need to make a stand and stop believing all the myths out there about this flawed and lazy tool for composition. We need to get back the integrity in our art. I'm hoping that busting the myths floating around on the internet about the rule of thirds, that I can open your eyes to powerful techniques that have been used by master painters for centuries. It's my experience that people don't like rules, and they certainly don't like to follow them. They're always saying the same cliche phrase, well, rules were meant to be broken, or I think it's good to learn the rules, but then know when to break them. The word rule has a meaning that can be looked upon as negative. What I'm striving to demonstrate in this video and throughout my blog isn't a rule that needs to be broken. It's a canon of knowledge that you can choose to incorporate into your art if you wish. Your choice, simple as that. Ignorance is bliss, they say, but I never found it blissful to be frustrated trying to make sense of composition when the rule of thirds was guiding me. The rule of thirds needs to die a slow and painful death for all the damage it's done to the art world.
This cracks me up.
With that being said, let's start with our first myth. It makes it visually pleasing. To debunk this, we have to know what makes an image visually pleasing, and I assure you, it's not plotting your subject on the rule of thirds crosshair. To be visually pleasing is to apply your composition techniques in a way which is clearly read by the viewer, without getting caught up on distracting elements or creating confusion by lack of hierarchy. How do we do that? Well, we need to understand how the mind perceives visual stimuli. For this, we use Gestalt psychology techniques like figure-ground relationship to clearly separate the subject from the background, or the law of continuity, which allow us to create a sweeping arabesque by using multiple objects. We can even use the greatest area of contrast to help direct our viewers' eyes towards the main subject.
Notan.
The next myth we have is pros use it. Annie Leibovitz is definitely a pro and one of the most inspirational photographers of today. So let's grab one of her photos and simply line it up to the rule of thirds grid. Then we'll see if she used it or not. Here we have a group photo, which I covered extensively in the Canon of Design blog. We can see how the mantle lines up perfectly to the rule of thirds grid. I guess she did use it. But wait, how did she pose the models? How did she create such a great composition when there are only horizontals and verticals to guide us? What do I do next? I have some of the models on the rule of thirds, but where do I go now? How do I position their arms, their legs, the dress, and their gaze? This is where we introduce dynamic symmetry. In order for Annie to properly pose the models, she uses dynamic symmetry. That's basically a fancy term for a grid system. To put it simply, it's something we can use in our photography to help us organize our composition. We can use the diagonals, verticals, and horizontals to help create a rhythm and unity throughout the image. Whether it's a painting, photo, or sculpture, dynamic symmetry can be used for all of them. We could get really involved into explaining the system more, but let's not lose focus on the main purpose, which is to expose the rule of thirds for what it is. A watered-down rule that has brainwashed us all into thinking it's worth sharing with the world. It moves the eye around the image. This couldn't be further from the truth. Plotting your subject on a point without consideration for the whole will not help create movement within your composition. When we learn of another Gestalt psychology technique called the law of continuity, we'll discover several tools we can use to create movement and unity which will move the eye around the image. The most visually pleasing one is the arabesque. This is a curvilinear element you can incorporate into your art to create a beautiful sweeping movement throughout the image. Master painters use arabesques extensively throughout their work. Another technique used to create movement is called a coincidence. This is edge-to-edge relationships which unify multiple elements and can create movement side to side and up and down. It's not a solid line as you might think when you hear the term leading lines. It's not that at all. It's broken, hidden. It's a magic trick which we can use to hide our design and allow the mind to easily close the gaps. In this photo, we can see the edge-to-edge relationships Annie Leibovitz creates by using the limbs of the models. We can also see it in this painting of the Mona Lisa by Da Vinci and in this complex composition by Bouguereau. Number 4, it gets the subject out of the center. First off, whoever said the center was so bad? Why are we led to believe this? There's a Gestalt psychology technique called the law of symmetry, which basically means the human mind is always trying to find balance in visual stimuli. So if we use the rule of thirds and place the subject off center, then we will need a counterpart to help us balance the image. If there's no counterpart, then we've just created a horrible balance within our composition. There is vertical balance, which I call breathing room, and there is horizontal balance, which I call gazing direction. And we must understand how to control each of these in order to create a properly balanced composition. Here's a photo I created which has the main subject centered, but is properly balanced because I considered breathing room and gazing direction. It took me years to erase the damage the rule of thirds caused on my compositions. I was always placing the subject on one side or the other without consideration of the image as a whole. Number 5. It's the basis for a well-balanced and interesting shot. We already covered the law of symmetry, which covers the proper balance of an image. But what we didn't mention is how the rule of thirds gives birth to unwanted negative space. If we are generically placing our subject into one of the crosshairs without consideration of the whole, then we won't have a counterpart on the other side of the composition. In result, we'll have negative space that takes attention away from our subject. Negative space can be properly used to create a feeling of isolation or loneliness, but to use it without sophistication is a total rookie move. Which brings us to number 6. It's a great starting point for beginners. Now, in my own experience, the rule of thirds only led me down a dead-end road. I thought of it as revolutionary at first, and I was boasting its powers to photographers who were just starting out. Later, I found myself at a plateau and not able to understand how to properly compose an image because the rule of thirds was guiding me. If new artists start with a grid of dynamic symmetry instead of the rule of thirds, they'll be able to later take advantage of the diagonals which they can create rhythm with, by posing the model or applying paint strokes. The available diagonals within the rectangle will limit the number of directions you use. This is called gamut, which will create a more powerful composition, rather than your art looking like the spokes of a bicycle tire. All right, number 7. Artists from the Renaissance, or Greek artists, created the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds was first documented by John Thomas Smith around 1797, and if you take a look at his paintings, you'll see that he wasn't a master at all. Da Vinci would be rolling in his grave if you heard anybody saying he was using this rule. The amount of schooling, studying, and practice he put into his compositions, and someone's going to water it down to something as simple as the rule of thirds? No way. Him, along with other masters, Greek included, used dynamic symmetry, the golden section, and other design techniques like arabesque, gamut, coincidences, radiating lines, figure-to-ground relationship, ellipses, and enclosures, not the rule of thirds. Number 8. The human eye naturally gravitates to the intersection points. I truly wish composition were this easy. Place your subject in a crosshair, and bam, you're automatically controlling the viewer's eyes. Not so fast. What about the fact that we are drawn to areas of high contrast? When we make our subject the greatest area of contrast, won't we look there first, no matter what position they're in? Another thing that pulls our eyes is something I call edge flicker. It refers to high contrasting elements near the edge which greatly distract the viewer from our subject. Creating a hierarchy of contrast and keeping the edges free of distractions will help you control the way your viewer's eyes move around the composition. Number 9. Cropping to the rule of thirds after shooting a photo is a great way to save an image. Well, cropping a poorly composed, badly lit image will not save anything. That's starting at the end and working backwards. Learn composition and Gestalt psychology techniques so you know what to look for, how to solve visual problems, and get it right in camera. Don't sacrifice precious pixels for the rule of thirds. Your creativity deserves better than that. Number 10. The PowerPoints, or golden points, create tension. Placing your subject on a third is not going to create tension, as we've learned so far. If we take a look at a Gestalt psychology technique called the law of proximity, we'll see how visual tension can be created. Like this painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. They are clearly unified by their proximity, but another thing to notice is the visual tension created by the fact that they are almost touching, but not quite. It's the moment before impact. Or this photo where the man is almost within reach of his dying wife. It's that close proximity that creates the tension. When considering the law of proximity, distance can create negative space, which, in this photo, creates a tension in the room. So many tricks and techniques can be applied to create a remarkable composition which communicates clearly to your viewer. I'm begging you, abandon the rule of thirds. Leave it behind and adopt the dynamic symmetry grid, which is just as simple to use, but can leave many more options open for you as your art progresses. If you found this information useful, please share it with your friends. Help me tackle this rule of thirds beast, kill it, and introduce better techniques to others who are in need of powerful composition. Learning powerful composition is the only path to becoming a master of your craft.
All right.
That was fun.
Wasn't that fun?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
great. Great
Really good.
find.
Yay. Yay.
Great pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, when you start to see them, when you start to see them applied to masterworks, you know, and it starts to make sense for the context of everything. Okay, now hold on just one second. I got to get back to where I was. Let's see. All right. So that's kind of where we're heading. Okay, we're moving away from the basics of the rule of thirds into golden proportions, and going to start having you draw here in a minute. Let's see, I got this here, stand by. Here. Okay, so can you all see my screen now? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's do this. Okay, so this is kind of what we were just being introduced to, from the rule of thirds to the golden section, to what golden triangles are, the golden spiral, the spiral section, root. All these things you're going to be dealing with here in a minute, or in the coming days. Okay, kind of a way of just looking at space. You're going to start looking at things and lining things up. Lining things up. You'll be using your tools to align verticals and horizontals and diagonals, all within the picture plane. That's coming. Okay. We just did the PowerPoints, the rule of thirds. Okay, and this is just an example here, how it's placed. Cinematography or illustrators might use it. You're just trying to, you know, give some logic location to the placement of shapes within your formats. Okay, we went through this. Boy, the more I look at these, I just get really almost nauseous. I really do. And you'll see why, because now we're going to move in this direction here. Every geometric shape that we're going to be drawing or painting with or within, from a square to a rectangle, vertical or horizontal, you're going to have ways of dividing it up that makes sense. Okay, so for instance, let's just look at this Vermeer here. The vertical, the vertice, vertical and horizontal vertice here. Every corner, okay, if you take a line from every corner and connect it to the midpoints on both sides of these masterworks, okay, you're going to start to see where elements start to fall into alignment. Okay. I'm just getting you aware of what's coming. It looks really complicated, I'm sure. I mean, I'm still observing things as I'm going along here. Just wanted to get you kind of have a little awareness of every square, horizontal or vertical format can be reduced to what they call a generic armature. Okay, so now what I'd like everybody to do, I'm going to show you something here. I want you to draw. Okay, and do this, and I want you to draw this. Okay, so you all have your rulers, the 2-inch grid rulers, 2x18s, the clears. If you don't, you should have one. Otherwise, you're going to need to draw yourself an 8x10. Okay, 8-inch by 10-inch format like that. Okay. I'm going to give you like, 2 minutes to draw it. Eight by 10. It's not necessarily square. It's just slightly beyond square. And then once you're 8 by 10, I hope it is square, because the more square and perfect your rectangle is, the better this armature is going to come out. This generic armature. And again, the generic armature can be applied to any square or rectangle in existence, regardless of how wide it might be.
Thomas, do you want us to draw 8 by 8 or 8 by 10?
8 by 10.
Okay.
See up top here, it says 8 by 10.
By square, he meant 90-degree corners.
That's correct.
Square.
And also, yeah, yes. But this generic armature that we're doing can be applied to any square format. Okay, so once you've got it down, you're going to draw a diagonal from the bottom left corner up to the top right corner. This is going to be called your Baroque diagonal. B-A-R-O-Q-U-E, Baroque diagonal. Psychologically, this is how, because we read from left to right and things move from left to right. This is one way of organizing your shapes or your edges or the dynamics within your composition. So movement goes from left to right or from lower to upper right, like cherubs or angels in flight. They move upward within the format. Once you've done that, you're going to draw another diagonal from either the bottom right to the top left or the top left to the bottom right. And that will be called your sinister line. Has to do with beginning from the left.
Center?
Sinister. Sinister, yes.
Can you spell it?
S-I-N or
S-I-N. S-I-N-I-S-T-E-R. Sinister.
What was the first one called?
Baroque.
Baroque.
B-A-R-O-Q-U-E.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So you want to get in the habit of, before you even start drawing on a canvas, have an awareness of where your Baroque and your sinister lines are. They're the basic tool. It's like if you want to find the, if your room that you're in or that you're building is square on the foundation, you draw the tape in both directions, or even your framing. If you're making a frame for a canvas or stretcher bars for a canvas, you want to measure from one corner to the next, and both corners should be equidistant. If they're not, that you're out of square. So you want to adjust the edges so you are square. So what happens in the middle is it divides it into a halfway point. It's nice that they do this on lined paper. That makes it easier for me to draw a line through like so.
Is sinister always left to right?
Top left to bottom right, yes.
Okay. And Baroque is bottom left to upper right?
There are my drawings. Say that one more time.
So the Baroque is bottom left
Bottom
to
left to top right. Imagine you're walking, you want to fly, right? Start here and you move up and to the right, to the top right corner. So number 1 and number 2.
Does that have a name, that third line?
The third line, the one that I went across, that I took away?
Yeah.
That is a horizontal vertice. And then you've got a vertical vertice.
God.
And I can't seem to get it straight here. I'm slightly off. So I'll take my eraser and I erase it, and I'll try it from the top to the bottom here. It's so much easier having a lined paper. Okay, this is just dividing things up so you kind of know where they're going to be going. All right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just bring this up. You're going to get to see the next thing here, and we're going to do this together. Annotate, clear all drawings. Okay, this is where we're going. What I want you to do next. All right, so we did the Baroque and the sinister, and we divided it. If you divide it in half in both directions based on the center, you can use a dashed line if you want. You don't have to, but it's giving you an idea where the midpoints of each of the sides of the formats, vertical and horizontal, are. It's giving you the center point. So in this case, I'm going to do this. What I want you to do, I'm going to go back to my drawing here, and I'm going to put a mark. This is where the midpoint is, here, and here, and here, and, oh, that bar is in the way. Hold on. Damn bar. Okay, and or here. All right, so I found the midpoints to each of the opposing sides. All right, now what I want you to do, let's just say we start here, the top left. Let's go to the top left, and we draw a line from the top left corner to the midpoint of the opposing side. Okay? Okay. Annotate. We're going to go from here over to here. Boom. All right. Then we're going to go from that same top left point, and we're going to draw down to the midpoint of the bottom of the format. So we've got our Baroque, our sinister, and now we've got two lines going from that same corner to the midpoints of either opposing sides.
I feel like I'm back in 8th grade geometry.
This is what this is. This is sacred geometry right now.
It's cool. I love geometry.
Do they have a name for those lines?
No. I don't know the name for those lines, but we can find them out. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So why don't we do this then? Let's see. let's go to the top right corner, and we'll draw opposing sides, okay? Draw a line to each of the opposing midpoints. All right. Then let's go to the bottom left where the Baroque started, and we will draw a line from that up to the midpoint on the top, and then same corner to the midpoint on the opposite side over here. This is geometry, and this is why masterworks work. But they don't necessarily teach this in school, so we are very lucky here. All right, then we'll go to the bottom right, and we will adjoin the bottom right corner to the midpoint on the left side, and then the bottom right corner up to the midpoint on the top of the format. Okay, all right, now I'm going to change my annotator here, and I'm going to show you again, even though they say that the rule of thirds is, it's not, when they say it's kind of mythological, I don't think it's really mythological. I think it's just a major location where things can be put. So if you notice, a lot of those major intersections, I'm going to annotate them here. I'm going to make them light blue. And this is where those PowerPoints were that you saw earlier. Okay. You can see how that divided the 8x10 format up into what now will be the rule of thirds. Okay. Because this is exactly a third of the way through from either vertical vertice or from the bottom to the top and the horizontal vertices or the sides of the formats. Okay.
Do you want us to draw in those dotted lines?
Yeah, I want you to put something there, just a circle, or just make it slightly different, just so you're paying attention to it. This is a generic armature. This is what you are, from this day forward, going to pay attention to in everything you do, in every painting you create, whether it's abstract or representational. You're going to pay attention to these magic lines, okay? You can go and you can actually design your paintings over these drawings like this. You can always rely on this generic armature. There are better ones to come, but this is basically, you know, for the standard format of 8x10, this is a really good one to go for. It's also for 11x14, 12x16, all the standard sizes of canvas that you can buy in the stores. You can have these lines, you could draw these lines in and design your compositions within those lines, guaranteeing greater success in placement of shapes and a more aesthetic composition.
Should be a good thing to put on tracing paper or acetate.
Yep.
You know?
Yes.
Overlay onto your works.
Yes. Well, I got, now, thank you, Tim, because that brings me to the next thing. There is another app that I'm going to introduce you to. It's called Camera Lucida. Camera Lucida. And it basically allows you, like I could take this grid and take a picture of it. I can download it onto my phone. And this Camera Lucida allows me to bring that grid, this generic armature or the golden section armatures, any of those, into this, this app. And it has a little, I guess a button that I can move back and forth And as I'm looking at my subject matter, whether it's a still life or a landscape, or I'm looking at a masterwork, painting, whatever, I can superimpose this structure that we're looking at right over the image. And I can arrange my shapes to make them work better within these armatures.
What was the name of the app again?
Camera Lucida.
Thank you.
Lucida. And I think it's a free app as well. Okay, I'll show you eventually. I'll show you examples of where you can use it and how you can use it in the future. Okay. All right.
But it doesn't actually change the photo. It just
No, it doesn't change the photo. It brings it up on your screen so you can import it. And then as you're looking at your subject matter, whatever it is you're going to do, landscape, seascape, still life, whatever, you can alter the transparency of these grids. So they're right now you're looking at it on my screen as really opaque. You can't see behind it, but the Camera Lucida will alter the transparency of it so the image that you're looking at, whether it's a still life, landscape, seascape, that will come through. And so you'll be able to see, like, you'll be able to alter your design on your canvas by making a tree a little taller so it comes into this intersection. In fact, let me see here. Every time you see one of these intersections now, okay, around the horn, go around the horn now, okay, any one of these intersections become like these PowerPoints where you can reconfigure your design so they fit there. They fit here, or they are in alignment in proximity. But then we get a little more, it gets a little more dangerous because it can get really complex, as you will soon see. All right, is everybody done with this? Everybody happy? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? How that looks on there. Let me remove that.
Could you repeat the sizes that this works for, or what the ratio is?
All sizes. The generic armature can be applied to any format, rectangular or square, vertical or horizontal. And every vertical or horizontal, rectangle or square always starts off with the Baroque and the Sinister. That's your starting place to find the center of that format. And then you move outward from there with your vertical vertice and your horizontal vertice through the middles of that cross. And then from corner to midpoints on each side. This is a godsend it is. All right, back to work. Oh, wait, I got to get rid of that. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you get to a point where you just intuitively know where these points are? You're not putting grid over everything you do, are you?
Yes. Yeah, the more you do it, you get to know these locations. But I've been working on it for the last couple of years, and I've actually gone out. I've gone out for, I've literally designed the armature on my canvas, and then I made things work. I changed the landscape ever so slightly to make alignments of contours work and fall in the right places at the right time. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
How do you think that this relates to what we know about physics and also sort of like how the stars are organized?
Oh my gosh.
That's a big question.
See me after class.
You know, because we have this sort of, and I have this sense that we also not only have a visual landscape of what we see externally, but there's this felt sense of our inner world and our inner eye. where, you know, our creative body and our imaginational body in part exists. I mean, I think it also connects to the external world, but I'm wondering how.
Okay, you
the
ready for this?
internal
You ready
world
for
and
the answer?
external-
You
Yeah,
ready?
you got it.
Okay, 2 words. It's everything.
Okay, thank you.
It's, as you will see, because we went from the generic armature, as we move into dynamic symmetry, and then we move into the golden mean and the golden section, and the golden triangles, etc. Those are all based on mathematical like algorithms. They're all perfect, and they exist subatomically as well as what's above atomically. My brain is getting a little fried right now. The point is,
You're forgiven.
There's pictures. I mean, it's the perfection is the 3.1618 calculus to the golden section, which is found in nature and throughout the universe. And we will get there, but we're going to start here
Yeah,
first.
but I just want to throw a monkey wrench in, because they're starting to find now with physics.
Yeah.
That it's not constant through all dimensions, if that makes sense to you. So if you were trying to create something, reflecting something in an alternate universe, the rules might be slightly different. So I just wanted to drop that seed for play.
Yes, well, we're just dealing with our third, somewhat fourth dimension right now, and there
Yeah,
are
thank you,
dimensions to
thank
come
you.
in the multiverse.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with Cartesian coordinate space here. So
Cartesian. Well,
yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Thank you
All right,
for
well,
that.
look, this is going to be what we're doing next. Okay, this is going to be your homework. Okay, your homework's going to happen. This is an example of an 8x10 format. Okay, this is a Gauguin painting, and he may not have done these grid patterns for this. However, he was trained, and you can see that one of the reasons why even this little still life has a structure to it, and there's some rule breaking that's going on, but you can still see when he aligns things that they work. So let me see what's next. Let me see. Yes. So I spent some time last night going over it.
Wow.
Using that exact armature, the generic armature. Okay. And this is what I came up with. So you can see I connected the corners. I had the Baroque and the sinister, and then I connected all the corners to the midpoints on each side. And then from every time there was a line crossing, I would draw another horizontal or vertical vertice. Every time you see something over here crossing, there could be another vertice going in both directions. And you'll see that they wind up lining up with intersections like here. I didn't draw anything there. Let me bring this up so I can just give you an example of what happens when you start to deconstruct these masterworks. So where did I see that one? Right here. Let's see what happens if this one little intersection, right? Let me see if I can bring it a little closer. No, it's not letting me bring it closer. Okay, so I'm going to go from this intersection. I'm going to take a line horizontal. Look where that lines up here, right where the edge of that pair is. And I'll go from that exact same spot, and I'll take it to the other side, parallel to the what was the rule of thirds on that. Okay, so every time I make a new crossing, where's my thing here? Every time I make a new crossing, I wind up like there could be a new spot here, a new intersection there. Let's see. It can drive you nuts, but there can be a new horizontal here, a new one here, or here. I can do a vertical there or a horizontal, and it's just interesting to see every brush stroke. These masters, every brush stroke comes together. Look it up on the top left there, where that leaf comes into alignment here. This is why they were masters. Look at this vertical line here, what it lines up with.
Tom?
Yes.
If you put in enough lines, wouldn't you always intersect? I mean,
yes, over time, I'm sure you would. You would have nothing but line work. You would cover the design. All right, so the only reason for doing this is for fun, and also to know that these masters were highly aware of placement here, or getting in proximity with placement. Okay. Let me do one last thing here. Draw. I'm going to go back to this line here. So now I'm going to screw it up. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, like, you know, he chose to draw his design, okay, in proximity. Like, look at the proximity down here of that pair on the right hand side. Look at how close in proximity that is with the PowerPoint there, or where up here this line comes in. All these intersecting lines come in there, or where this falls in alignment here, where that leaf falls in alignment, or this stem falls here. These guys drew and paint a lot, but they learned these intersections through sacred geometry or dynamic symmetry, which nobody really knows about. Look at how the plate comes into existence at that intersection there. Anyways, it could drive you nuts, but the more you practice it, the more you don't have to practice it. All right, so that is going to be your homework. You're going to be painting this. In fact, look at how nice I was to you guys. Watch this. We're going to go here. Oh, that's interesting. Let me get rid of those drawings there. Clear. All drawings. Okay. All right, that's going to be your homework. So we're going to do this Gauguin still life. I want you to do this. I want you to, number one, go somewhere and print out the image. Print it out so you've got the full image on an 8x10 or a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Okay, then I'm going to have you take either a black pen or a red pen or something, and I want you to do a generic armature and rule of thirds over this image. First, you're going to do this over the paper. Okay, I want you to do it. Only the generic with the rule of thirds. You don't have to go into more complication than like I just did with those blue lines. Okay, then you're going to get an 8x10 or 11x14 canvas or board, and you're going to draw the armature. Okay, the generic armature onto that first, and then you're going to draw the still life over the armature. All right, and then if you have a workable spray fixative, you can apply that to your drawing. Okay, workable spray fixative to apply to your graphite drawing of your still life and your armature. Okay, you're going to spray it. It's going to fix it in there, because the next thing you're going to do, you're going to go and you're going to tone the board or canvas a light raw umber. So very, very light raw umber. You're just going to get rid of the white. So there'll be no white showing through anywhere. It's going to be a tone board. So when you do it really light, depending on if you work in acrylics or oils, it doesn't matter, or pastel, doesn't matter. You're going to see that armature and the still life contours still there. All right, those contours are going to not the contours, but the armature is going to eventually, for the most part, disappear as you start to paint and paint over it more opaquely. So you're going to tone the border canvas a light raw umber. Then you're going to draw in the contour of the image using the pencil or a thin line of raw umber. So you can draw it in pencil if you want, but I'd like you to draw it again in a darker brown. That's the contours. Okay. Now you could also take it, put it on tracing paper, and then apply graphite to the back of the tracing paper, and then rub it, you know, push through it and leave yourself an imprint if you want on the canvas, so you get a more accurate rendition if you want. It's up to you. I don't care how you do it. There is no cheating here, or no such thing as cheating. Okay, then you're going to paint in a 3 to 4 color Notan or value pattern study. Okay, so that means you're going to just work monochromatically, basically, and just lightly, you know, work the values of what you're seeing in here. All right. Then you're going to go mix up the color schemes on your palette first, then replicate the color scheme that you're seeing here on the picture. When you finish it, you're going to send me the JPEG by next Monday's class. These are the colors. I've even given you the color clues to work with. Did I make that easy enough for you? Is it okay?
Are you supposed to send in our old homework if we didn't get it into you?
You could, yeah. You want to send it right now?
No, I haven't done it yet.
Oh,
I have a question.
boy.
I have a question about number 8 and number 9.
Okay.
So do we do right on the canvas the value study?
Yes.
And then we put the color over the value study?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So your value studies, if you're working in oils, you can kind of do raw umber with a little bit of Gamsol or paint thinner or something. You're just doing a wash, and you're just kind of giving yourself an understanding of the value patterns. If you want to take a black and white picture of it or do a Notan of it or whatever, you're just establishing the value patterns of what you're seeing. You can also do it in black and white if you wanted to. I don't really care, but I would use, if I were doing it, I would use something a little more in harmony with what it is I'm looking at.
Okay.
Which is,
What if we're using watercolor?
Excuse me?
What if we're using watercolor?
Do you paint in any other medium, Sandy?
No.
You're just using watercolors?
Yep.
Okay, well, do your very lightly, do your armatures, rule of thirds, do the drawing in pencil, and then work light to dark.
Okay.
Okay, and think value though. I really want you to do your value study. You can still do a sketch on another, board or piece of paper, just so you have an idea of, the contrasts that exist.
Do you want a photo of when we do the value study before we paint over it also,
No.
or just then? Okay.
No, I just want the finished product. I only have so much time to get to your stuff anyway. The more stuff you send me, the less time I'll have to get on with the lessons. So, yeah, just send the finished product, and I'll do my best to diagnose it or deconstruct it to see where you might have gone wrong, if you went wrong at all. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, these are the colors that I would recommend to use. And if you have any questions around that, you could basically do it without, with just red, blue, and yellow, black and white. But you get farther and closer by knowing how to use the warm and a cool of each primary color. Okay.
Thomas?
Yes?
Will you be sending us these directions and also the image?
Yeah, I'm going to send them to you on the YouTube link. You could just zoom right through the YouTube link. Okay?
Okay.
Or wait a second. What are you working on right now?
Pardon me?
What do you have right now? A phone or an iPad or what?
Laptop.
Okay, take a screenshot of this. Take a screenshot of the homework.
Can you let us take a screenshot of the photo as well?
Yes, yeah, but right now. first things first. Screenshot of the homework. And when everybody's ready, I'll move up to the image. Is everybody good? We're good. Okay.
How do I take a screenshot? Could somebody say?
Are you on a phone or what?
I'm on a laptop. Mac.
Laptop?
Mac.
Yeah, a Mac. Okay. Shift Command 4. Watch this. I'll show you. When I go Shift, look at my cursor right now. Okay. Go Shift Command 4. It's going to change it, right? Now I'm going to use my right finger. I'm going to move it into place like this. Use my left finger. I'm going to push down on the pad, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm just going to let it up. And that takes a screenshot and puts it right onto the desktop.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait.
Oh.
Wait.
Yeah, can you go to the image, please, so that we can see it?
Oh, well, no, she's. I want her to do the screenshot. Did you get it?
It's not working. Oh, there we go. Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
You might have to do it a couple times.
Okay, did it.
Okay, excellent. All right, so here's the image, and you can do the same thing with that. We can go Shift Command 4.
Can you go to the bigger version of the image with a couple pages up?
Okay.
For the quality of the image.
Of course. There you go. There we go.
So I have another question about that screenshot, because I've never done that. So you press those all down with one at one time, right?
No, Shift first, then Command, then the number 4.
All separate.
Yes, but you keep Shift down, then Command down, and then 4, and that'll start it.
Okay.
Understand? First Shift, then Command, and the second you press 4, it changes it. But you don't do
totally did it. So exciting.
There's
Do you
there's
know what gallery this is in?
No, but you could probably enter the image into Google Images, and it'll bring it up, and you'll have probably a number of websites that have this image, and then you just got to find the title of it. And
perfect. I want to find a high resolution image of it to work from. Thank you.
I think I know I'm doing this wrong. When I push that Shift Command 4, it makes a little cross.
That's it. So
but
then
it's not highlighting the picture though.
Okay, so follow me again. Okay. Get that cross up to the top left-hand side. Go Shift Command 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Now with your left pointer finger, push down on the little pad on your Mac.
Or
okay? And then drag with your right finger, keep it on there, and drag it down to highlight it.
And then what?
And then once it's there, the second you lift up your left pointer finger, it takes the picture.
Okay, can you go back to that the first image then with the instruction, because I missed
right there.
Yeah, that. Okay.
I'll use this paper.
Okay, is that good? Well, this was a full day.
I'll say.
That's a lot of info, but I think it's going to get easier. I think we'll see. There's a lot to come.
I'm going to have to watch it twice because I have a little bit of ADD and I kind of phased in and out.
Oh, that's fine. That's just fine. Let's see if there's one more thing I was going to share with you. For those of you who, Kurt, Cassie, is it Jovian?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to find your homework. So I'm going to do that right now, unless anybody has any more questions about this.
Yeah, I've got a question. I just brought up the image, and it's actually like 8 by 10 1/4.
Oh my God, we're in big trouble.
So what should we do? What do you want us to do?
Just do 8 by 10. You're close. We're just studying. We're getting in the neighborhood. And it's probably 8 by 10 1/4 because it's probably out of alignment. You know, the
Yeah.
stretcher bars it was painted on probably were not square. You know, that's the only thing I could think. But we're just doing the best we can. Yes.
This is Nina asking a question.
Hi.
Wouldn't it seem to be more sensible to tone the board before you put on the armature?
If you wish to do that, that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
But I also wanted you to get the experience of using a workable fixative.
Yeah.
Workable fixative to affix your drawing, because if you don't affix your drawing and you go to wash in oils, especially wash over to tone a canvas, you'll remove that drawing.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's mostly for oils, but that can also happen in acrylics if you use,
Okay.
water in a brushing technique to tone after it's drawn on there. You can remove it. So,
okay, won't do that.
Yeah, just do your best.
Just do it. Okay, see you, Thomas. Thank you for today. It was great.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay,
Yeah,
so
good
let's see. What's
Wonderful
that?
Wonderful class. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for getting through the tediousness of it all.
And I just want to tell everybody, I had in the last year, I had a design in the graphics design program, and Thomas is like, his material is just far superior.
Oh. Yeah, you were saying that was at UCSB?
No, it was at SBCC, their graphic design program, and I took,
cool.
their design classes, and just your approach is just really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my goal is to get you guys to get it, right? And then my job is done, right?
Hey, Thomas, I missed the homework assignment. Sorry.
Where you been?
Well, I had a handyman scheduled at 1, and he came early because he was in the area. So.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you the YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, and just get it off of there.
That's what I was going to do.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. So I'm now going to end this and then go to find the homework of those who did not get a chance to get it in there, or they did and I didn't find it.
Hey, Tom, is that link to the YouTube on, can we find that under our email?
Hi, Vicki. Under your email?
Yeah, where do I find that link to that YouTube?
I'm going to be sending it to you.
Okay, thanks.
I will send it to you. I'll try to get to it by tomorrow. I've got a huge schedule this afternoon, but I'll definitely get it to you by tomorrow. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. All right. Now, I'm going to stop the recording here. Stop recording, and then that way I can go